Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody else in between, we're back at it one more time, and more than likely we'll be back at it again until they tell us that we're fired, especially considering that we don't work for anyone. That's going to be a while. This is the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. I'm Ashton Gene Lewis. He's Martin Pape.
How's it going,
And
Ashton?
off the top, it could be a lot worse, man. It really could. It could be a lot worse. It's Thursday night football. We're gonna have we're gonna have a heart to heart about Thursday night football a little bit later on in the show. In particular tonight. Some of you guys are going to make a wrong decision, and some of you are going to make the right decision. The question is, which one are you? I guess we'll find out. Anyway, Martin, we got some things that we got to talk about here. We got the biggest guest to come on this show. No shade to Joe George. No shade to our guy Adrian. No shade to anybody else that's come on the show. Factually, this is a guy that I've listened to his podcast for years at this point, and he was so nice to grace us with some of his presence on this podcast. But before you hear our interview with Howard Beck, NBA writer Howard Beck. We talked about he has a very spicy take on wings about the world. He also
And
has
Space
a thing
Jams.
about
Don't
Space
forget.
Jam.
Yeah, we got a
I,
good
I'm
conversation
just
about Space Jams, Ashton.
I'm just saying, guys, I convinced Howard Beck that Space Jam 2 is going to be lit. And I think I can convince you as well. Listen to that part of the podcast. We talk about basketball a little bit. We talk about Big Face Coffee, Matisse Thybulle, JaVale McGee, all kinds of stuff. You'll hear it. You'll hear it in a couple of minutes as soon as Martin tells you how this podcast is even possible.
Yeah, we got our good friends over there at Thrive. Ashton teased a little bit about the Giants-Eagles game tonight on Thursday Night Football. If you want to get in on some prop action, it's a little DFS twist, daily fantasy sports twist over there at Thrive Fantasy. Go ahead and download it on your Google App Store or Google Play and then the Apple App Store. I don't think I've ever gotten that correctly, Ashton, since the day that we started shouting out our people over at Thrive Fantasy.
Someday.
We'll get there eventually. Just like I'm gonna get a light, just like you, a ring light eventually, and we're gonna have some optimum production quality here on the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. Shout out to everybody tuning in. Shout out to Howard. But yeah, Ashton, we got a couple of props tonight. If you want to get on the Thursday night action over on Thrive Fantasy, make sure to use the code BROKEBOY when you download it and put $20 down. You'll get $20 right back. They're also doing a plethora of other deals to give you some money back so that you can get in on more action. Thursday night football, Ashton, two of the props that you can bet over or under on. Do you think Danny Dimes is going to throw 237.5 passing yards? You're going to bet the over, or you can bet the under. It's all up to you. And also, do you think Carson Wentz is going to have 2.5 passing touchdowns and interceptions combined? That one's going to be a juicy one, especially if you're like me, streaming a defense and going with the Giants tonight in fantasy football. Ashton, can they get a couple of interceptions? And it's going to be an interesting game, to say the least, for those watching. Ashley and I are recording this one on Thursday, October 22nd, about 4:30 Central Time. So we got a couple hours to get through this show and then get to kick off if we're going to be watching it. But Ashton, people are tuning in today to hear us talk with Howard Beck. We already talked about some of the topics. We talked about what he expects for the 2021 season. So why don't you take us away and get us right into the interview?
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I bring you in about 3 seconds our interview with NBA writer, formerly of the New York Times, used to work with the LA Daily, of also Bleacher Report. He joined us here on the Broke Boy Sports Podcast to talk about all things basketball. It's Howard Beck. His name is Howard Beck. He's done a lot of important work for basketball. A lot of you guys have gotten smarter by reading his material. We've actually suggested him multiple times in our media suggestion segment on the normal podcast that we do today, but we had a special segment where we just had to talk to Howard because he is going through a time of transition. And, as guys of opportunity, I just, threw a random Twitter comment out there, and I was like, hey, Howard, if you need to keep those hot takes warm, man, you got to stay in the kitchen. You got to train those skills up and everything like that. And I was like, you can come on the Broke Boy Sports Podcast and set the mics ablaze. He has been gracious enough to join us and give us his presence. Thank you for joining us today, Howard Beck. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. My pleasure to join you guys. And I do have to cop to the fact that my background is virtual. I do not actually have anything remotely that cool on my own walls in my apartment. I stole this entire wall from Bleacher Report. I did. It's actually still there. It's just a photo, but but it is cool.
No doubt about that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Who all are the characters back there behind you?
Yeah, I should have adjusted this better. I could probably just duck out of this. So that is
Drake.
It is a mural of Michael Jordan dunking over a like front row seating of who's who of NBA super fans. So like Drake and Rihanna and
Craig Sager, Beyonce, Jay-Z.
Yep. And Jack Nicholson and Spike. I think that's everybody. I can't actually see it myself right now because it's tiny on my screen, but I'm doing that from memory. But yes, the artist, if people want to look it up, is Mad Steez, Madsteez. He's brilliant. He's got an Instagram. You can go find the rest of his stuff there. And actually, this mural, and so I think one that's in our San Francisco office, also by him, is on his page. So just great stuff.
Yeah, that's some awesome work right there.
So, Howard, we are limited in time with you. You've been nice enough to join us here, man, so we'll jump right into it. Quarantine was an interesting time period. You were in one of the big hot spots and everything like that, man. Did you, first of all, what'd you do during quarantine? And then on top of that, like, did you discover anything about yourself specifically in quarantine that you're taking out of it and it's kind of improved your life or maybe made your life worse?
Well, the early months, were just kind of maddening and disturbing. Like there's the pandemic itself, right? And even if you don't see it every day, what's going on in the city around you, right? Like, so, myself, my family, we were healthy, thankfully. We were fine. And it's not like you walked out on the streets in March and April and you could just like see, sickness everywhere. I know it sounded like that to the rest of the country, but unless you were near a hospital or worked as a frontline worker, I don't think you really noticed it. What you noticed as a resident of New York, and in my case Brooklyn, was that this city, which is so alive and so vibrant and just so electric in a way. I'm from California originally, so we've been here for 16 years though, and the thing I noticed as a visitor and then certainly as a resident for the last 16 years is you walk out on the street here and it just feels alive. It's what I love about this city. And it was listen, like the illness and the death is obviously the most critical thing here. But as a secondary effect of the pandemic, to walk out in New York City and have streets be deserted, have, Court Street, the avenue that's like, a half block from me, which is this great row of restaurants and shops, and there's a movie theater and liquor stores and just all the things you have in a city neighborhood.
Right.
And everything is just shut and there's nobody out. I could have walked down the middle of the street for probably a half mile and not even like gotten run over because there were no cars half the time. Like those first several weeks, especially March and April, were just eerie. New York was eerie, as quiet as I've ever seen it. I hope to never see it that way again. It was a lot easier to park. I don't have a car, but we rent one occasionally. So like getting around, like we could get to places and, out on like Long Island if we wanted to go for a hike or something. Like you could get places in like record time. It was out to the beach. Like it was crazy. So it was just weird. It was just very, very strange. I don't think I learned anything about myself in that time other than while I'm not some big fitness buff, I really missed and still miss the gym. Like having to find new ways to keep myself active and in decent shape as a middle-aged dude, like that, like is tough. All of a sudden, like you can't go get on like the exercise bike or anything because I don't want to be indoors anywhere. Now they've reopened, but I'm not going back anytime soon.
Exactly.
My gym keeps sending out emails saying like, hey guys, by the way, the gym or my apartment complex keeps sending out emails like, hey guys, the gym's closed. Please stop trying to come down here because we're still dealing with all of this. Now, Howard, you mentioned you moved out to New York about 16 years ago. You've been in the business for quite some time, and Ashton and myself, we've got our own stories for enjoying talking about sports. So I just wanted to get like what's your story for getting into the business and covering sports?
Yeah, it's not the story anybody would expect probably because these usually when you cover basketball, when you cover the NBA, and people often will have like some origin story of when they fell in love with basketball or a player, a team, a moment, something like that. My moment, like the thing that I can trace my entire career back to, is actually Joe Montana throwing to Dwight Clark for the catch.
Okay.
In the 1982 NFC Championship.
They have a statue of that moment. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that is the seminal moment of my sports fandom. Because I grew up in San Jose, Bay Area kid, huge Niner fan, that was obviously the breakthrough moment that sparks a dynasty.
Yep.
And as just a young fan in the Bay Area, listen, we're blessed with a lot of teams there, and at times some really great and very memorable teams and some incredible athletes that have gone through there. But in my childhood, the Giants, A's, Raiders, when they were actually there, and Niners were so far ahead of the Warriors. The Warriors were just an afterthought. Like, they won the championship in 73?
Mm-hmm.
No, 75. So, I'm pretty small at the time. Like, it's barely on my radar. The Warriors as an entity are barely on my radar. Nobody was a Warriors fan back then. Like, it just didn't exist. Like,
right.
There were Warriors fans, I'm sure, but it was, they weren't on TV that much. They weren't a point of discussion. At any given time, Stanford and Cal were probably ahead of them in the pecking order too, just in terms of who got coverage.
Yep.
And so it was the Niners. It was Montana to Clark. It was the catch. That's my epiphany moment. And that sparks my sports fandom or sends it to another level. And now that's got me reading the sports section every day, the Sounds of Mercury News. I'm devouring every bit of Niners news and everything. And then it's sometime in my, teens where you're starting to think about where you're going to go to college and all that stuff, that I thought, well, there are people who are paid to go watch these games and then write about them. And that sounds like a ridiculous way to make a living. So, so I decided that's pretty much, it's as simple and it's almost embarrassingly simple. That's how it started. Like, that's when I decided I wanted to do it. And so I went to UC Davis, where I got a job at the college newspaper, and that was my entire college career. Like, I occasionally went to class. I mostly spent all my time in the college newsroom. Just got the journalism bug, both sports, and I started doing some news coverage as well. And then the path to covering the Lakers eventually in '97 is long and circuitous and strange, which we could go into or not. But anyway, that's my origin story.
All right. That was a nice. We gave you a couple softball questions there. Now it's time to get to the hard-hitting stuff.
Unlike a certain elected official, I can deal with the tough questions.
Yes, Howard is very vocal about certain people.
We're not going to have to mute your mic, are we?
No.
I don't. If you need to.
All right, we got a hard-hitting question right here, man. This is pivotal. This is going to lose you a lot of fans. What's your problem with wings, Howard? What's your beef with wings?
My beef with wings. We're mixing meat metaphors there.
Yeah.
Yes, that was that.
My beef. There's variety of answers here. The primary one is this: I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't get wings. Wingstop, Buffalo Wild Wings, Worldwide Wings, Wings and Friends, whatever. All these chains. These all proliferated in the last 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of sports. It's built itself into sports culture.
Yeah, it really has. It has become it is almost like a law. You cannot have a Wings commercial without involving beer and sports fans screaming at a TV in a sports bar somewhere.
And Howard, it's very similar to how they tricked a lot of people in the early 80s, 70s, and 60s that cereal is a part of a balanced breakfast. And it's tons of sugar. It's it's all about advertising. If you say it loud enough and long enough, everybody believes it.
Never mind that there's 15 different kinds of toxic dyes in there. 14 different sugars. I remember when we first learned that OSE at the end of an ingredient meant it was sugar, fructose, all these other oses. There were and you'd read down the list and it'd be sugar, corn syrup, fructose, 17 other different, things that ended in OSE. And all of a sudden you realize I've been eating dessert for breakfast all this time, but it was good.
It's got some MSG thrown in there as well, probably.
Yeah. Bad stuff. Yep. So wings are a fraud. This is the problem. Wings are a fraud.
Because use the F word. I love it. Howard Beck with the hot takes.
Listen, there are 5 different parts of the chicken that people generally eat, drumstick, breast, thigh, the wings. What am I missing? I'm missing something in there. So part of this is whether you like white meat or dark meat. I'm a white meat guy. I actually looked this up because somebody tried to claim to me last week that wings were dark meat. They're actually classified as white meat. Mm-hmm. I realized. I'm a white meat guy. I like chicken breast. And look, I'm gonna put it in some basketball terms. It's an efficiency part of this, right? Daryl Morey would appreciate this. and you being in Houston, Ashton, should appreciate this. The efficiency of the wing, that's got to be the lowest efficiency part of the chicken.
Big facts.
Lots of bone, lots of skin, not that much meat on it.
Yep.
And so what are we doing all this work for? Why? And it's finger food too. So you're getting messy. You're getting sauce on you and the dipping sauce and all this other stuff. And for what? To get the scroungiest, scraggliest part of the chicken, and then have a big mess around your mouth and your hands and everything to boot. And so people, when they defend it, they'll always say, no, it's not about that. It's about, you dip it and you get these sauces. Listen, folks, you can dip any part of the chicken in the sauce. You can take the chicken breast, this nice, big, meaty part of the chicken, or if you're into dark meat, fine, take the drumstick, whatever. Get that meat, whether it's off the bone, on the bone, whatever. You can dip it in the same sauce. It's okay. It doesn't have to be the wing, which has the least amount of chicken on it and requires the most amount of work. Also, I've never been into the skin. The skin always kind of grossed me out on chicken, no matter which part of the chicken it is. And so, yeah, the chicken wing, it's all about it's literally skin and bone. There's almost no meat there. What are we doing? How did all these chains convince people to spend all of their hard-earned cash to come and eat a big basket of the scroungiest part of the chicken? It's a fraud perpetrated on the American public, and I won't stand for it.
All right. So you mentioned a second ago, messy. This next question gets Twitter a little messy every single time LeBron goes to the NBA Finals.
I'm about to leave the chat.
No. I'm not even going to put out who I think is going to be or who I think wins the argument. But Howard, how tired are you every single time LeBron gets into the NBA Finals? The MJ versus LeBron argument comes up. Is it time to just move on from it and just let both players be great?
There is no moving on from it. We could try, we could stand on principle, we could make any convincing arguments that we want to make about why we should just enjoy them both for how great each of them individually is. We can make the case for why there is no objective answer, which is what I believe. There really is no definitive
Big
objective
facts.
answer.
Yes.
We can talk about it being generational, because I think it very much is, where it is. If you grew up in the Michael Jordan era, you're going to cling to that. If you're younger, you're definitely going to skew toward LeBron. If you're a generation behind the Jordan generation, I'm more the Jordan generation by my age, but the generation behind me is going to say, whoa, kids, slow down. You ever heard of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? And then somebody's going to bring in Wilt or Bill Russell. So, and there are people out there who'll stump for Magic Johnson too. I think that it's pretty clear that it's Michael versus LeBron. Maybe it's Michael versus LeBron versus Kareem. I don't think there's a definitive objective answer. I don't care that there isn't either. It doesn't bother me. And it doesn't bother me when somebody wants to stump for one or the other. And I could probably sit here and give you a half-hour spiel defending either one of them as the GOAT, but I won't.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not bothered by it. I think it's a largely pointless discussion because you can't. There is no answer. It's a bit of a hack discussion because it's just been beaten into the ground. So it feels a little worn out. But, part of watching sports is then making lists and debating, and that's part of the fun. You during the game itself, it's all about rooting and living and dying with your team or the player you root for. And then when it's all over, then you can spend the next 3 hours, 3 years, 3 decades arguing about who's the greatest. It's fine. It's part of the fuel that keeps the sports media business going.
Oh yeah.
Who am I to say it's wrong? I don't get into it a lot myself. I'm happy to have the discussion with anybody if they bring it up, but it's fine. I think the fact that we have a player at all, and not that big of a time lapse either, by the way. Jordan retired as a Bull for the final time in 1998. LeBron's drafted 5 years later in 2003. And at the moment that Jordan retired, I think we kind of all thought we're never going to see anything like this again. Kobe comes in and he's kind of a Jordan-like player, very, very intentionally so. But you knew he wasn't going to be Jordan. He was incredible in his own right, but he wasn't going to be Jordan. And I don't think anybody would have reasonably thought that anybody could equate or surpass what Michael did. And depending on how you're judging these things, I think you can make the case that LeBron has. And the fact that there's a discussion at all is amazing. And that we got to witness all this. Again, that goes back to we should just enjoy the greatness for what it is. And, the whole comparison is the thief of joy stuff. I'm glad that I've gotten to see LeBron's career and cover pieces of it up close for the entire run. He's been incredible, and he's been a model citizen to boot, and a great leader on and off the court.
100% true.
Okay, Howard, can we get you for like 2 or 3 more questions here?
Yeah, you guys can go. We can go as long as you guys need. As long as I'm good. I'm good. I got nothing pressing to get to, so we're good.
Okay, awesome. This is one of my few bubble questions I will ask you. We saw Matisse Thybulle blow up on YouTube. We saw Big Face and Little Face Coffee. Little Face Coffee didn't get as much love as Big Face Coffee did. But with Jimmy Butler, right? We saw JaVale McGee and JaVale McGee had a YouTube series that went way longer than Matisse did because Matisse did not. Let's be honest, Matisse probably didn't have as much fun in the bubble as everybody else because his team went out in a pretty embarrassing fashion. But JaVale McGee, out of all those guys or somebody else, who do you feel dominated the bubble off the court? If you say Tyler Hero because of the people who were in his hotel, the lady who was his friend who was in his hotel room, or Kyle Kuzma and the lady who was in his hotel room when he got back from games, I totally understand that as well. But who did you feel dominated the bubble off the court?
I think the winner of the bubble off the court was Scott Foster. Like, Scott Foster must have had like 50 different stories written about him being the pickleball champion. I still don't know what pickleball is. I don't think it involves pickle. I think it probably involves a ball. But the referees apparently were big into pickleball. Like, this was a thing. Like, USA Today did a story. I think other places did a story. Like, so like that was the bubble. The off-court life about the bubble was something to do with pickleball and coffee wars. Yep. If it's not Foster, then it's definitely Jimmy Butler. I mean, come on, let's face it. Like, he got a lot of mileage out of Big Face Coffee. Everybody now knows that name. Like, it's not even an actual business in the world yet. But the second it launches, it will already be a thing because he
yeah, I heard he got
right?
deals. I heard he had people hitting him up for like big deals with coffee beans and everything like that.
I'm sure it's great stealth marketing there.
No doubt about that. Something so small, it turned it into a big thing. All it started was with a simple French press. Just like how some businesses put their first dollar on the and frame it up. I feel like Jimmy's just going to frame that French press that he used to hustle everybody. Right, exactly.
The French press,
All right, now since go ahead, Ashton.
No, I was going to say, Martin, you go ahead, man.
So the bubble's behind us now. The 2020 season's also behind us. One of the longest season in NBA history, if we look at it. As we head in towards 2021, what are some of the storylines that are most interesting to you? You already mentioned Golden State a couple of minutes ago, how they were a once franchise, not even in the top 5 or 6 in their own city. Now they're almost dominating it. They moved across the Bay. We've got a couple of key players coming back from injury. So is it KD and Kyrie in the East? Is it Golden State out in the West? Is it who's going to stay with LeBron in LA? What are some of the storylines you're looking at for next season?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's the obvious thing first, which is that we don't even know when, where, how the season's going to start.
Right.
So, minor details. They'll hash that all out. Oh yeah, plus the salary cap, luxury tax, all the CBA items.
All things that are going to plummet, right? Like that's what we're talking.
So once they figure out the actual structure of the league and how it's going to continue to run, minor things. There's plenty of great basketball stuff, obviously, to look forward to. Let's start with this. The list of contenders for next season, and look, we're recording this on October 22nd. The draft is still a few weeks away. Free agency is a little bit away. We don't know how dramatically, it's just a matter of life now in the NBA that every offseason brings some pretty dramatic change. There'll be at least a couple things this offseason too, even with all the constraints. But as we sit here right now, there are 8 to 10 contenders. Mm-hmm. That's just unreal. And
the East is actually tough for the first time in a long time, right?
The East, I mean, you can make a case for 6 teams in the East right now. Miami's the defending champ in the East. Milwaukee is still, as long as Giannis doesn't force his way out, and I don't think he's going to immediately, they're going to be right up there. Toronto, unless they pull the plug and let some vets walk and start to restructure, but I don't think that's going to happen yet. Boston is in there, so there's 4. Philly maybe Doc Rivers finally unlocks the chemistry of this team, and then by the way, Brooklyn's just going to jump in out of nowhere, microwave contender with KD and Kyrie. So that's 6 teams in the East, and then the 4 obvious ones in the West, the 2 LA teams, Denver and Golden State. And that's not even accounting for, does somebody else make some major move? Like, does Dallas find a third piece to put with, Luka and Porzingis?
Does Portland play an entire healthy season and they look like themselves a couple of years ago?
But so you could start talking about other teams, but I think if in fairness or objectively, there are 9 teams. There are 9 teams easily that you could say have a case to make, which is pretty cool. And the Nets and Warriors, one team in each conference that are going to go from among, Warriors worst record in the league, Nets just, fringe playoff team, to go from being barely relevant one season to contender almost overnight is incredible.
Yeah, the Warriors just took a gap year, like that kid in college. They took
Yep.
they took a sabbatical gap year. They're back.
And then the West is brutal. You can make. There's all these teams that are on the rise in the West. Like the Pelicans are a team that are on the rise, and in a normal year at a different time, you'd say, well, this is a team that's gonna bust the playoffs next year. But you can't even make the case that they're definitely going to do it because who's falling out? Maybe Oklahoma falls out. Maybe I don't know. Like Portland should only get stronger. They were the 8th seed. So I don't know how I don't know how New Orleans or Memphis was this fun team that we thought, okay, they got a good young core. Are they ready to burst through? Sacramento was a team that I thought was on the rise. They kind of, faltered along the way. They've kind of stalled out. They've got new leadership now. Can the Kings make a move? But even then, it's like, all right, but where's the room to make the playoffs? Like the West is just brutal. And like Phoenix 8-0 in the bubble. Everybody's new darling, little dark horse team. How the Suns possibly going to break through, given all the teams we just listed in the West, is brutal. And then there's just the unknowns about certain futures, right? Giannis, Brad Beal, where does Chris Paul go? What are the Rockets going to do? What are Ashton's Rockets going to do?
Yeah, Van Gundy spurning the Rockets to go with Zion and the Munchkins in New Orleans. Ashton and I are actually going to be talking about that in the actual episode because Van Gundy not coming back to Houston. I think that's kind of a major flag for just about any Rockets fan that a coach is going to pick Zion over working with James Harden and Russell.
We've already had this discussion, right? And Howard knows what this is. Every year that roster, despite having one of the best scorers and prolific level scorers in the history of the NBA, it's just a watered down version of the year before. There's never been a year where it's gotten better than it was the year before. And I get it. Russell Westbrook is back, and that's huge for everybody and everything like that because he's a great basketball player and he has a mentality that can change the very essence of what a team is about. But the team has progressively gotten worse, and at some point you got to stop the bleeding before you're at the bottom of the West. And like Howard said, the West is brutal. It's a vicious place to exist out in the Western Conference.
Think about where Chris Paul was in his career arc at the moment that the Rockets acquired him, right?
Right.
So the second they acquired Chris Paul and gave up a lot of, good pieces to do it, not groundbreaking pieces, whatever, but a lot of good players.
Right.
They give up a lot of depth and just kind of diversity of talent to get one aging star. Now, Chris Paul was still really good at that stage, but he was where he was in his career. The moment they made that deal, they knew they were on the clock and that every year they had Chris Paul, the next year was going to be, the window was going to be a little smaller and a little smaller. That's just the way it was going to go because you got an all-timer, a future Hall of Famer, but on the backside of his career. By definition, the task was going to get tougher every year. Plus, of course, there was the immovable object in the Warriors to try to get past. So they knew that. When they flipped Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook, I was not a fan of the move. I was on record with that immediately. I'm not alone in that. There were plenty of people. We were in Vegas at Summer League, and I immediately was just making the rounds in the arena. And of course, the great thing about Summer League is just you can't walk more than 5 feet without running into a scout, a GM, an assistant GM, an agent, somebody else. And so I just did kind of a quick Insta poll, what do you think? What do you think? And, it was almost universal. Everybody thought that the Rockets were at best about the same or worse. Nobody really made the case that they were better by getting Westbrook. Right. And now it's the same thing. Every year that you have Westbrook, you're going to be a little worse off because of where he is in his career trajectory, not to mention this is a guy whose his entire game, his entire stardom, his greatness in this game is predicated on his explosiveness. And so when that goes, what are you falling back on?
Yep. For the first time in his entire life, he's going to be on a path where he is physically worse because you can make an argument that Russell Westbrook has gotten physically better every single year that he's been alive as a human being, right? Until the next couple years. And this is going to be the great challenge of his career, because if he can read it, like I saw that video of Andre Drummond working on his game, like he's trying to change up to be ready for the new world, and maybe he's a little too late because he's like way too late on that, right? But it's the same thing. It makes you wonder, man. It makes you wonder, like, for a guy who's that mentally tough, for a guy who's that vicious on the court, can he change almost everything about his game to become a better basketball player?
Yeah. So the Rockets have maxed out is the thing. They've plateaued.
Yes.
And now if you could blow it up tomorrow, if you could somehow keep Harden, but find a place for Westbrook's contract and find a place for Eric Gordon's contract, and if you could just start from scratch, which you can never do in the NBA. It's very, very rare that you could just tear it down to the studs, keep your star, and find a way to rebuild instantaneously around him. Like that's what the new administration has to now contend with, and with no draft picks to boot, or very few to work with.
Right.
It was a bad trade. It was an all-in kind of move. It was a swing for the fences move. It didn't pan out. It's only going to get worse from here, I'm sorry to say. And I don't.
That's the entire city of Houston.
No, we're realists at this point. Apparently, coaches and GMs in the city of Houston just like trading away the future to go all in on one single season, which is kind of proved that's not the way that you do things anymore in today's age of football, basketball, all of that stuff. And so, it's been interesting to be a fan of Houston sports, especially with of course, the things going on with baseball as well and all that stuff. So, it's been an interesting time being a Houston fan.
Yeah, I'm sorry for.
No, it's all right. Ashton and I are both realists.
Yeah,
we're all good.
It's unfortunate. And listen, like we start talking about the West, like depending on what they do, who knows? Maybe the Rockets are the ones that fall out of the playoff. I mean, I don't think so. I wouldn't make that call right now, but
I believe it.
Everything's on the table for that franchise, including a teardown.
Yeah, I believe it, man, especially considering they got to get, not only are they trying to rebuild a team to be a playoff roster, but they're trying to rebuild it to be back to a normal NBA roster, because the small ball thing only worked because Mike D'Antoni was able to work around it. And I'm assuming the next coach that comes in for the Rockets is not going to be up to the caliber. Maybe he will be. Who knows? Maybe she or he will be, or whatever, when it's all said and done. But it's hard to believe that somebody's going to come in with a mind like Mike D'Antoni and be able to operate without a center consistently throughout the roster. So, well, moving on to more positive things, Howard. After I think Martin has a question about one of the most iconic films that is yet to be released yet, and your perspective on it, man.
Yeah, my final question here before Ashton gets to his is, have you seen the synopsis for Space Jam 2? And what are your thoughts on what got released in the past couple of weeks about what we can expect from LeBron James and everything going on in it?
So the first thing is, in case I haven't alienated enough of your listeners with my Wings take, the only thing I could possibly I could say that would top that in terms of just making people like this throw their thing at like their speakers at the wall, or pull their earphones out and stamp on them in anger. I've never seen Space Jam.
Oh,
okay.
Man.
Okay, I thought you were gonna say you hated it. Okay, I thought you were gonna say you hated it. We're good.
I've never seen it, and I don't care that I haven't seen it. And I have a feeling if I tried to watch it, it would probably be just so insanely painful. And the thing is, like, I know, because like like this is a generational thing, right? So there are people that are younger than me that like that was a iconic movie and a moment for them when they remember the first time they saw Space Jam, and like that was maybe that was their love of basketball started there, for all I know. Like there are people who like hold that in really high regard, and just sentimentally, nostalgia just is really strong with that movie. I don't have it. It's after my time, and I've never bothered to seek it out. And
you were an adult when that movie came out. We were kids, so exactly. Yeah.
I want to say I actually, because I moved to the United States. I'm actually originally from England, and I want to say it came out around the time that I first moved to America, and it was probably, like you said, one of the things that helped me gravitate towards basketball, because I mean, little Martin growing up in England, I didn't really know what basketball was until I moved over here. And then you see this larger than life figure lead the Looney Tunes to beat the Monstars. And for me, I love it. It's one of those like cool sports movies up there with some of the other ones, But yeah, For me personally, I don't understand the synopsis. They're going with the LeBron loses his kid or his kid disappears some reason, and so that's how they're gonna connect everything, and it's gonna be I don't know. I just think it's gonna be weird personally.
So hot take, and Howard, maybe you can pick up on this and tell me what you think about it. At the end of the synopsis, it mentions that they have to play a basketball game, randomly play a basketball game versus some of the best NBA and WNBA stars. It does not say current NBA and WNBA stars. Ryan Coogler is a very smart man. Could Ryan Coogler sell the MJ versus LeBron debate by making them play in the final game of Space Jam 2? Is that the Michael Jordan cameo in Space Jam? They play he plays the all-time great Michael Jordan evil version of him to win his son back.
Wow. So
see,
so now,
Howard's in. We got it.
The wheels are turning, man. The wheels are turning. Plus, now you can paint Jordan as like the bad evil guy who kidnapped LeBron Jr. Like,
It'll never top Game of Zones, Howard, but I feel like it'll be pretty close.
Oh man, Game of Zones, I love that.
The Game of Zones ultimate battle of the old school and the new school was, that cannot be topped. Listen, I mean, LeBron is making this movie, so but Michael owns, I'm sure, the rights to Michael's own likeness. So right. Would they both be in on it? Would they like both participate? Could they? Because neither one of them is going to be participating in a movie where the other guy comes out on top.
I was going to say Michael Jordan would never let even a virtual version of himself lose to LeBron.
All right, but all right. Let's keep going down this ridiculous rabbit hole. LeBron is also a big Michael fan, though. Wears 23 because of Michael. Right. Could LeBron, in fact, have broached it in the other way, which is that to win the game, to finally beat the Monstars, he has to like call upon his idol Michael Jordan, who beat the Monstars before, to help me figure out how to do this again. Like that, maybe he's got to pass to Michael for the winning shot. Oh, that would be.
Oh,
yeah. Maybe Michael pass to LeBron for the winning shot.
No, that would be the most LeBron thing of all time. Because my thing is like LeBron James is the greatest teammate in the history of the NBA ever, in my opinion, right? And Michael Jordan is the go-to, like he is the killer. He is the finisher. And it would be the ultimate like, yo, this is us in our moment that we're doing the things that we do, right?
But like we're still be LeBron deferring to Jordan though, like to do that symbolically. I don't know.
Also, they should just recreate that final scene from the NBA, from Game 6 from Game 5, where he's driving to the hoop, 4 Monstars close in on him, and he passes out to a wide open Michael Jordan, and hopefully he makes it this time, and it's not Danny Green.
Oh man!
By the way, shout out to Danny Green, 3-time champ. You can never take that away from him. 3-time champ on 3 different teams.
Continuing going down the rabbit hole, MJ doesn't make an appearance in the actual film. We go to the post-credit scene, and everybody that's seen The Last Dance and everybody that's been on Twitter since, we've all seen the memes of Michael Jordan and the gifs of Michael Jordan, of his reacting on the tablet. Michael Jordan sitting there with his whiskey and his cigar, and he's just. And the post credits, just finished watching the film, and he's like, with that face, everybody knows the reaction face of MJ. That's what I'm going with for Space Jam 2, so that they can get the little, just have some fun with it. Because LeBron, we all know LeBron likes to have fun with his creative side of things as well, and so I think he could have some fun with it. So I'm interested.
I think at a minimum there's going to be some sort of nod to Michael in this, right? Like
no
that,
doubt.
And that's because LeBron, like he may be trying to take that title. He may think he already has taken that title, but he respects the all-time greats, and he idolized Jordan as much as anybody else did. Whatever other tensions there may exist there because of competing legacies and all this other stuff, a nod to Michael within the film, I think, is probably a given. What role that is, or how much of a nod, I don't know. I thought the thing that jumped out when I looked this up, this is the description: with the help of Bugs Bunny, LeBron must navigate through a never-before-imagined world filled with iconic movie scenes and characters. And these are Warner Brothers movie scenes. So, like, I'm not enough of a movie buff to be able to start cycling through the possibilities, but that they're going to be actually occupying and moving through or participating in iconic movie scenes from like real movies from the Warner Brothers library. Like that sounds fascinating to me. Like this movie might actually be a decent movie, whereas the first one, from everything I've gathered and little bits and pieces I've seen, is just a bad cartoonish kids movie.
Yeah, okay, it's a great kids movie.
Yep, 100%.
Like if you're an adult, it is not a good film because, okay, spoiler alert, the way they win the game is Michael Jordan stretches his arm the full length of the court for a dunk to win the game after the team was down by 100+ points at halftime. So, yeah.
Followed by Skip Bayless saying LeBron can't stretch his arm that far.
Oh, yeah, it's getting, yep.
Appreciate that, Skip.
I can already see it in all caps right now on Skip Bayless's account.
There has to be. Anyway, nothing. Martin asked this question. Martin, you got anything else on that one? I got one last one for
Howard. No, that was going to be my last question because we already answered some of the other things that I had.
All right, Howard. This is important. Just like the Wayne's question. What's next, man? What's the deal? I just want, you know, I know you're trying to keep it under wraps and everything, but like, what's the next move? I know moving on from Bleacher Report, Full 48 is over, but still go out there and check out everything from the Full 48. A lot of high quality interviews. Check out the first episode ever. He interviews Commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, about the future of the league. Last episode featured Zach Lowe and Rachel Nichols, two of the biggest basketball minds, including Howard as well. Three of the biggest basketball minds in the game. What's the next move, Howard?
Still to be determined as we talk today. So I wish I could break news on your podcast.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
I don't have news to break at the moment. There will still be, you know, there are many good discussions going on, hoping to have some clarity sometime soon. It will certainly involve a similar combination to what I've been doing for the last 7 years at Bleacher Report, which is some writing, some podcasting, maybe some other multimedia stuff. And yeah, I mean, what form all that will take on and exactly whose platform or multiple platforms potentially is all still kind of being determined right now. So nothing I can share at the moment, but yeah, like appreciate the shout out for the past work. If people want to go find the Full 48 pod, is obviously still, for the moment at least, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Stitcher and all those other platforms. And I have, if anybody's curious about my next podcast, because it will not be on the same feed. I have to start new wherever I land. So I have created a website, howardbeck.com, where you can, it's simple one-page site. Go on there, enter your email address, hit send. That sends your email to me, and I will then have a one big email blast sometime in the near future to say, hey, folks, appreciate the support. Here's where to find my new podcast. Here's what it's called. Here's where to go subscribe and all that stuff. Maybe I'll have the news about other things that I'm doing in there as well. But my writing work I've collected all in one place on a site called Authory, AUTHORY, so like author with a Y. And I think it's authory.com/Howard Beck. And you go there, and everything that I've written for both the New York Times and Bleacher Report, so basically 16 years worth of my bylines are all collected there in one place. Couldn't get my LA Daily News stuff there, unfortunately. Their website does not have a good archive publicly, and could not pull in all my old Lakers coverage there, unfortunately. But yeah. which is kind of a bummer. I would love to, for my own sentimentality and you know, just to go down memory lane, I would love to be able to have all that available, but alas.
Yeah, and make sure to follow Howard on Twitter at Howard Beck. Howard, is that just the? Do you own that that @ for just about every social media, or is
You know, it's funny because I got to Instagram kind of late. I wasn't a big Instagram guy. I've you know, it's I think I've got Howard A. Beck on Instagram.
Okay. I was gonna say, good thing nobody's trying to pretend to be you on Instagram, because that's always a tough one.
Yeah,
it is a way to get the blue check mark, though. It's a nice way to get the blue check.
There was an impersonator for a little while on Twitter years ago, and went through some channels through some friends and got Twitter to squash it, so that was fun. And then eventually they invented the blue check thing, so that helped a little bit.
Oh, wow, that was before the blue check mark action.
I've been on Twitter since like 2008, I think. So okay. I don't think the blue check was invented yet. That was a little while after that. So yeah, joined. I'm looking it up. November 2008. The reason I got on Twitter, by the way, I got on Twitter in November 2008. I was working for the Times at that point, and Twitter was this thing that people would like. We'd heard about it, but I didn't know anybody who was on it. And somebody pitched us a story at the Times, like Shaquille O'Neal has joined this new thing, Twitter. Someone should do a story about like, can you get? I'm like, oh yeah, cool. That sounds interesting. What? So like, I remember, like, if I don't remember what the story was now, but if you go back and look, I'm sure it sounds like as if you had jump back in time or jump forward in time or whatever, and you're trying to describe this thing like, Twitter is a social media platform which involves 140, so still 140 characters or less or whatever, right? It's a quote unquote microblogging service. Like it was probably described in these like really awful, clunky technical terms because we still didn't really know what we were dealing with and had, of course, no idea how big it would get or how much it would come to dominate our lives, especially in the media space. But yeah, Shaq is the reason I got on Twitter because I felt like if I'm going to write about it, I need to understand how this thing works, so I better go sign up.
Yep. Shout out to the big Shactus.
Shactus. Out of all the Shaq nicknames, you go with Shactus.
Yeah, the big cactus from when he was down. You know what I'm saying?
I know which one. I mean,
I don't think that makes his top 10 nickname.
Oh, what? That was one of my favorites.
Oh,
no.
Like,
the big Shactus was my favorite of all of them that he came up with.
And on that note, thank you very much, Mr. Beck, for joining us here on the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for giving us some of your time and, of course, a lot of your wisdom and a lot of your knowledge. And, of course, your hot takes on hot wings. So we appreciate that.
It might be a week before I eat some wings again. You know what I'm saying?
I know it's a losing battle. I know I'm not going to convince people about this. I'm just, look. Just take 5 minutes, folks. Just think about what I'm saying, right? I'm not expecting you to give it up tomorrow. I'm not expecting some grand transformation. I'm not expecting I'm going to put Wingstop out of business, in the next 3 weeks. But just take a minute to think about what I'm telling you. There's better parts of the chicken to eat. You can still enjoy all the same sauces. You deserve better, people. That's what I'm saying.
Howard Beck, America the Messiah, trying to lead us out of the desert that is chicken wings. On that note, we are calling it Dunzo on this portion of the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. Thank you, Howard Beck, for joining us. Make sure you go follow him on Twitter at Howard Beck. Keep up with everything. Go subscribe to his email blast on howardbeck.com so you can find his next venture. I'll be waiting with bated breath to hear what you do next, man. And I'll always support you, no doubt about that. Thank you for coming on the show, man.
Appreciate that, fellas. Thanks for all the kind words, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Howard.
And Martin, is it done on your end?
Yep.
Okay.
I think we're actually pretty synced up there. I'm just pulling up our. There we go, and we're back on Twitch.tv as well. So there we go. We're back live.
Yeah, so that was the first time we tried to pull that off. Luckily, not too many hiccups. On the podcast, it came out crystal clear. Sorry for the people on Twitch who had to deal with the echoing situation. I figured out what to mute, and we take notes. We're getting better every single episode. I promise you that much. And Martin, on that note, man,
I was going to say I took some notes there as well. My levels were through the roof on that interview, so I apologize to everybody's earbuds that I blasted while I was in the red, and Ashton and Howard were both normal sounding people. So thanks for sticking through on the Twitch side as in the YouTube side and listening to the video side of things. It was a little loud. I'll just leave it at that.
Moving right along, what's popping in quarantine, man? Martin, you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Mine's pretty quickly. I can go first. Mine is what's popping. I had a couple of different things I could choose from. Honorable mention the Valerie Loretta for she's may or may not be signing a reality TV deal. Also, second place was Joe Buck and Troy Aikman's hot mic situation. That was interesting to see some of the people's reactions. If you didn't hear that, they were. So here's the thing, Asher. Before I get into just a brief discussion on that, what people saw on Twitter, that little clip wasn't even on air. That was a recorded, like mic check.
There's always somebody who has like satellite feeds, hear.
It was somebody in the truck. Somebody like. Basically, like an inside job, recorded them talking about it and
sabotage.
Yeah, really fucking weird. They both addressed it. It is what it is. But what's popping for me, Ashton? there's this thing that Sky News and a couple other people reported out of Europe. There's going to possibly be a European Premier League, which is, as we break it down, it is literally going to be a tournament that will make the Champions League pointless. Financiers, including J.P. Morgan here in America, want to fund a $6 billion package deal to create the European Premier League. Problem number one, Ashton, they can't call it the EPL because the English Premier League already has EPL trademarked. So it'll be interesting to see like what name they come up with or what abbreviation they come up with for people to figure it out. For those that missed the news, it's supposed to be more than a dozen teams from a couple of nations, Ashton. England, Germany, Italy, France, Spain. So your Real Madrids, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Chelsea, Tottenham, Man United, Arsenal, basically all of the top teams that people know globally. They're basically just going to drop the Ajaxes, the FC Portos, the Shakhtar, who, by the way, pat myself on the back for a couple episodes ago where I called that Shakhtar could easily upset Real Madrid, and they just did that this week. But yeah, this new European Premier League is actually backed by FIFA, which for anybody that doesn't really know, FIFA and UEFA are not the same thing. They're kind of competitors to say the least. So FIFA is kind of trying to get in on the action. Everybody knows Europe soccer kind of dominates the world viewership wise, and so I've seen a lot of people talk
And
about it.
money
Ashton.
wise, based off just the EPL. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well, 18
yeah,
teams. 18 teams go in. There would be a group stage and a knockout. It's literally the Champions League without the potential upsets. It's like if you take NCAA March Madness and take away like seeds.
The bottom eight,
I was about to say the bottom
so
eight
only
seeds.
the top 8 seeds.
Yeah, it's absolutely it's so that there's no more upsets. It's so that these teams can get even more money. I'm not a fan of it. I mean, I'd probably end up watching it just because I'm a big soccer fan. But at the same time, Ashton, it is. When I read this, I was like, this is ridiculous." Like, I don't know. The Champions League is what it is because it helps these other teams like Ajax. Ajax is in the Netherlands. What are they going to do if this European Premier League becomes a thing? They would no longer be on the potentially global stage, and we've seen some of the players that have come from Ajax and have come from SC Porto who wouldn't be included in this deal, and so I'm not a fan of it. People seem to be 50-50 on the fence with it. Kind of, if you're fans of these teams, you want it just because it's more exposure, but if you're a fan of the game, I think this is kind of excluding some of the younger talent and smaller teams out there that all they get's the Champions League.
The alternate is like this becomes like the young kids thing the whole time. Like this becomes the young boy, like the dudes that never get to go out there and play, and like they put their best young prospects mixed in there and get them more playing time out there on the pitch. But there's also the just the flat out idea that this whole thing is just going to get added to the long list of tournaments that teams are playing in consistently against European powers and everything like that. It just is another opportunity when fans are 100% allowed back in the stadiums to get the best fan bases on the planet to milk more money out of them, right? Yep. Like another opportunity for more of the fan base that we know exists, that is millions of people, right? Only so many people can fit in the stadium, but if we add 6 more games or 7 more games or 8 more games to your schedule, possibly more than that, because group stage is 3 and then get to the finals will probably be 4. So if we add 7 games to your schedule, that's 7 more possible sellouts, multiple legs of that and everything like that. And they can fill those stadiums up. They can get money out of those arenas. So it's a money-making venture for everyone. I'd be interested to see if this is an opportunity for a lot of other fans to get into the arena. And if it's just more money that teams can collect. So other than that, I don't think it'll eliminate Champions League because Champions League, of course, is always going to have more support because it allows more teams in. So, but it may rise up in terms of like these rankings and everything like that because everybody values Champions League above all else, right? Because it's the best of the best competition on the planet. But yeah, moving on. What's popping in quarantine for me? Hypocrisy. If you guys didn't see this, I'm sure most of you did. It was all over SportsCenter and all over FS1, all over every news article, news site that you can possibly contemplate. Odell Beckham Jr. has been banned for 2 years from going to LSU because of his really, honestly, man, like those LSU Tigers, Joe Burrow and all those guys won a national championship, but I feel like Odell Beckham Jr. had the best night.
Oh,
Like, there's no question. I feel like, Odell Beckham Jr. showed up lit. He had one. There's like a video of him running into Karl Malone, like full force, like trying to run into Karl Malone because him and his family have known Karl Malone for like a long time. He was wasted that entire night and was lit on the field, in the locker room, smoking cigars with the kids, handing out the money to everybody else. Apparently, the NCAA, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, they're not about fun. So NCAA came down and, LSU, actually the NCAA didn't come down. LSU was under investigation and it was found that, surprise, surprise, LSU was paying the father of a player for a player's commitment, which guess what, guys? Every major college football player you've ever seen has been paid to go to that certain university in some way, shape, or form. So to try and act like you're above reproach or, oh no, not my favorite player. Yes, your favorite player. Guys, like a couple of years ago, we were talking about like a federal probe into college basketball where they were paying Creighton basketball players $100,000 to be on the roster. Yeah. So how do you think that gets dispersed to football players, right? So other than that, man, the hypocrisy part is LSU is the program that has cut themselves of 8 scholarships over the next 4 years or 3 years, I believe it is, or over the next 4 years, and they'll take 2 away every single year. They paid the player's dad, right? Got away with that. Odell Beckham Jr. is banned from going to LSU, right? Because he was the dude that was out front, right?
Because he was caught on camera. That's the thing, Ashton. You got to remember.
Yeah.
The payment to the player's dad wasn't caught on camera. The payment to Odell, that's the hypocrisy, is like the fact that if there wasn't a camera
to try to act like Odell Beckham Jr. is the problem in that situation is hilarious to me. So like, you paid somebody under the table like illegal amounts of money in a bribe situation, right? And in some cases, because LSU is a state school, that is like a federal crime because that's a state run, that's taxpayer money in some way, shape, or form. And it's also, booster money as well. Because a booster was the guy who got busted for paying, right? Like, that's how they always do it, right? The booster is the one who finds the guy who leaves it underneath a bench somewhere in the middle of a park. Yeah, the bag man. Everybody's got to have it. If you have not watched Steve, I've mentioned it before on this podcast, I'll mention it again. Stephen Godfrey has a great SB Nation piece on the bag man. And it's on YouTube for free. Anybody can watch it. Go check it out. Just type in Stephen Godfrey Bagman, and you will be able to watch an entire video about basically the backbone of college sports. Because it was about a player who got sued by Ole Miss because he basically welched on a bribe. So you check that out. Anyway, it's also about Ole Miss and Mississippi State and their ever eternal rivalry of culture and slam and everything like that. Whatever. Moving on. The hypocrisy in that situation is that Odell Beckham Jr., private citizen who was allowed on the field, is somehow punished more harshly than the actual school itself. And you're saying also the only other person that's being punished in this situation is the players, because the scholarships, like LSU gets to save that money. That's room for somebody else to pay full tuition. And on top of that, it's money that they don't have to spend on, money that they don't have to lose by giving up that money that they could potentially have, right? It's a spot on campus that belongs to somebody else. It could belong to somebody else who's paying full tuition. But the other thing that goes with that is, guess what happens when you cut scholarships for a Division I program? It's not that it hurts the program and their inability to be able to go out and recruit more guys, right? Like, that's a part of it too. But the other issue, the bigger problem, is now we got to start looking around in the locker room and think about who doesn't deserve their scholarship anymore.
Yep.
As much as, and now you start looking at situations, and of course, guys, you see it on Twitter, you see it on Facebook, you see it on ESPN all the time. They love to show you when they give the walk-on kid a full ride scholarship, right? They don't like to show you when they pull due scholarships. That's a big part. And when you take away, even if it's just 2 scholarships a year, that cuts into the older guys who are on the team who are scholarship players. And it makes it that much more difficult for guys who've already done so much, which, by the way, you can also point out in this situation that Odell Beckham Jr. is being punished despite the fact that he made LSU millions of dollars when he was there by being a great football player on that great, excellent team. Them cutting scholarships makes it even more difficult for guys who are in a bad spot to maintain the life of existence. Like that money that they get, for their money they get in their scholarship goes to them, their ability to pay rent. They get a stipend to be able to pay rent. And so all of a sudden that money's gone. They get money, they get food from training table or whatever. Even if you cut it down to like a half scholarship or whatever, it's still the school losing scholarships hurts the players more than it hurts the actual school. And that's just the hypocrisy of the whole situation. Once again, the brand didn't get tarnished. The players who made money for the brand got hurt. They are the ones who take the hit. That's all I had for what's popping in quarantine. Anyway, Martin, moving right along. We got a lot of stuff. We got a lot of stuff to cover. We're gonna have a conversation about Thursday Night Football a little bit.
It's not even the last time.
Not the last time we mentioned Odell Beckham Jr. on the show. By the way,
he's gonna come back up here in just a second, Ashton. But another part of the show that we like to do on Thursdays is best of the best, worst of the worst. You get both of them this week. As this one was kind of obvious once the news came out that this is a good thing for the people that are like questioning why are you doing this? What's going on? Ashton, why don't you tell everybody what the best of the best is?
So the University of Texas ban, I'm sure if you're from Houston, you've heard this, but if you're, I hear we have a lot of listeners out in Washington for some reason, so shout out to them. But if you are one of the people who listens, or if you're one of the people who pays attention to University of Texas football, which if you're in Texas, you actually don't have a choice. Everybody has to do it.
Yeah.
So because they are everywhere. They're like a disease. The UT grads are everywhere. Anyway, and they're never back. By the way, UT's not back this year, in case we were all questioning whether. Yeah. The UT band will not play "The Eyes of Texas," which, if you don't know, is the school song for the University of Texas. It has a long-standing history of being connected to a minstrel show, and some of you guys think I just talked about like a woman's period. I did not. Minstrel is basically it's the equivalent of blackface, right? Like it's the same thing of like it's blackface plus stereotypical black habits that are like, that feed into this negative stereotype about black people that is 100% not true, right? It is the insult. It is truly based in racism. It was first performed at a minstrel show, a talent show, right? For a bunch of UT students on campus. It has relations and connections to Robert E. Lee that you can read about. I think the Austin Statesman has written about it multiple times because there has been a surgence of alumni who have come forward to say that they do not want that song played at games because people know the origins of it. There's the other side of the argument as well, Martin, and I always find this very funny how people are always talking about like you can't rewrite history. And I'm like, well, just because you learned history incorrectly doesn't mean it's rewriting when somebody properly attributes credit to somebody else, right? When there's actual evidence, like there's verbal confirmation, there's actual history and evidence, there's photos of the song being played for the first time and the man being in blackface, right? You can check that out and do whatever you want with it, man. But it's a huge step in the right direction. The UT band will not be playing it, but I'm assuming they're going to play it over the speakers. They're playing Baylor this upcoming week, and for whatever that game is supposed to be, because Baylor could very well go out there and shellac Texas for and the shit gets real bad. Is this going to be
Baylor's first game if they actually played a football game this year? Do we know?
I think they played one. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I will say this, man, about the situation, the way that they came to this determination, it wasn't something that came from administration, because guess what? Administration is doing everything possible to make sure that the football boosters who are old alumni who love that song, despite where it comes from, they've made it very clear about their thoughts and opinions on that song. And a lot of other people are going to go out of their way and talk about how you're soft because you can't stand or take that song, even though it's really them basically saying like you're soft because you don't want people to play things that are hearkened and come from racism. Just like how they had multiple statues on campus they had to take down because there were like statues of former slave owners on campus that black students and people of color had to walk by every single day at school as they go to pursue a higher education. And it is something when you walk past a person that you knew, owned, and thought less of, thought subhuman of people that look like you and your school that you are so very proud of to attend, to glorify, and actually be proud to say this person went here. This person was a huge integral part of the history of the University of Texas. There's a difference between knowing and telling history the way it happened and glorifying those who have a terrible connection to something horrible that happened throughout history. It's the same argument from Christopher Columbus Day. For some reason, people are so willing to defend Christopher Columbus and break their back to try and defend a guy who murdered and raped a lot of people and destroyed an entire community of people. But hey, do you, fam? Whatever you think is right, right?
Yeah.
That's all I had to say.
Well,
Best of the best. The UT band has voted to not play it. Like the actual players, actual like musicians in the UT band voted to not play that song.
yeah, I'm also looking while you've been talking here, Ash. I've been looking at a couple of articles at a couple of Texas-based websites or websites that cover the Longhorns. The band might not even play this week. Might not even perform again in 2020.
Well, see, so that's the thing, man. Like the boot, like Martin. I don't think we can explain this. Like, if you don't understand how college sports work here in America, the boosters, like, they're the money. And if you know anything about life, they're the money. They make everything turn. And the boosters are like, Martin, they are pissed. This is a situation that Tom Herman can get fired over, not based off of the football performances. Yeah. And it's interfering with the thing that it's just like when you hear fans who are fans of what the Washington football team used to be called, and they're like, well, the Washington football team's old name has like a long-standing history. And I was like, you know what has an even longer standing history? Mm-hmm. That's slur, because it's connected to a group of people who predated America, like the existence of the United States of America. So it's the same thing here, man. It's literally like people they have such deep connection to that song that they can't see it for what it actually is, and they don't care where it came from. They just have that feeling, that warm, fuzzy feeling that they get to play even after they watch their team get their ass kicked by 3 touchdowns. They still need that warm, fuzzy feeling in their heart.
Like, literally what you just said is what Sam Ellinger has said so far this week since like everything came out. When asked like why did he stay after the game, and you know what his response was? I'm trying to find it in this art. He said like, my teammates know where I stand on it because I used to sing it as a kid with my dad. So it's like, you're not even going to take into account the argument of it being
like
racist.
The vast majority of your team is composed of black people and what that song means to them. But it's more important because of like, you grew up singing that song with your kid. I've always find that like that is the wackest cop out, because it's like, once again, like, dude, they're literally talking about this like it's the fucking national anthem, right? Like, and if you got beef with like people disrespecting the national anthem, I do too. I just don't believe that people were disrespecting the national anthem when they were kneeling. This is a song like for school spirit, bro. Yeah. Like for school spirit, you know what I mean? Like, oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
also,
an opportunity to usher in a new era, and you're getting like just relentless backlash from people, and nobody in the administration is willing to stand up and say like, yo, we don't support this, right? Yeah. Like, they've gone out, they said that they had a conversation with the players on the team, and they were like, yeah, man, I thought we had an understanding that y'all were going to go out there and stand up, and they were like, oh, we thought we had an understanding that we were not. So yeah.
So before we move on, Ashton, really quickly, to tell you like where so like you say, the boosters and stuff, the people that answer the boosters are like the Board of Regents. This is what the Board of Regents said on Thursday, which is what we're recording on October 22nd, the Thursday episode of the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. To be clear, this is Regent Chairman Kevin Eltief. To be clear, the UT System Board of Regents, and I'm reading this from Hookem.com. They said this is the statement that he put out. To be clear, the UT System Board of Regents stands unequivocally and unanimously in support of President Hartzell's announcement that the Eyes of Texas is and will remain the official school song. So it just people that are pointing out some of the obvious things, you're talking on deaf ears because they don't care. They you can tell them it's racist all you want. They don't.
And then once again, man, like, there's so many of you out there, and I know it doesn't matter to some of you guys, right? Like, we talked about how we know a high school kid who is going to Oklahoma State despite what Mike Gundy showed about himself during the beginning of the quarantine situation, right? You can go look that up with the whole OAN thing and everything like that, and how he just basically came out and was just like, I think that's the truth, you know? Even though it's been disproven multiple times over. But I implore you, if you ever become the father or mother or uncle or nephew or sorry, uncle or aunt, uncle, grandfather, grandmother of a potential college athlete, like look into these things, man. Look at the people who are leading these teams. Like my thing is like Dan Mullen, who called for the swamp to get packed, right? Like he was like, pack the swamp. This past, he didn't say it like that, but 2 weeks ago, and then had a flurry of positive tests, including himself. Like I was like, when I see stuff like that, as a parent, you have to question, like, is this like this guy is supposed to be a leader of men? He's supposed to help turn your son into a man. I don't want him teaching, and I'm not a parent, right? So like, I can't even determine that kind of stuff. And I've also never met Dan Mullen. I just know what I know about Dan Mullen as a football coach and the things that he said, right? I don't want my kid getting kissed by his wife. And I also don't want a person who apparently has like beef with science.
Yeah,
to be the leader of my child.
Yeah,
because I can only imagine what his policy on injuries is, right? Like not, and that's just one example, right? Like I just talked about Mike Gundy and Dan Mullen. Those guys lead two of the biggest programs in this country, right? Two of the biggest brands. They are unstoppable. Long after Dan Mullen is dead, long after you and I, Martin, and Mike Gundy are dead, Oklahoma State's still gonna be playing football, and Florida's still gonna be playing football.
Yeah.
I just want people to think about the people who are leading these programs. When moments of judgment that's not in front of you, right? When you can just say whatever you want in somebody's living room. When there are moments of leadership, when you have an opportunity to step forward and show who you really are, remember what they told you. Remember what they showed you, because that's what is actually their form of leadership.
Hey,
anyway,
if you want to go to college and play for Tom Herman, you can end up at a strip club doing cocaine off a stripper's ass. But we move on to the worst of the worst, Ashton. We bring up Odell.
Martin out here tempting people with a good time.
Hey, he turns a blind eye to the racist song, and basically, I don't really know if Tom Herman said it.
So like his thing.
So
his thing is, yeah, he hasn't said anything. That's the interesting part too, because it's like, you would imagine it. You would go with your team because, like, at the end of the day, like, you got to see them every single day. If them bored, like, they can yell and scream at you all, like your bosses can fire you or whatever, but at least you go out, like, doing what you felt was right. And maybe what Tom Herman feels is right is different than what I think is right.
Rumor on the street is they can't afford to fire Tom Herman right now. So, but
yeah, nobody can afford to get fired. Which, by the way, coaches. I mean, maybe that's why coaches are going buck wild in these press conferences. They're like, "Oh, baby, I got all the job security in the world, man. You seen the economy outside? Like,
they can't fire him." Let's move on to the worst of the worst, Ashton. We're going to talk about Oh, excuse me, I got a hiccup. We got Odell.
Odell's back in the news. It's only been about 5 minutes since we mentioned his name, and we're mentioning it one more time, Martin. Odell dropped some truth bombs on us, man. He let us know. I'll just read it so we don't get called out for misquoting him. They asked him whether or not he fears catching COVID. Basically, does he fear a positive test? He's like, no, not in an arrogant way. I just don't think COVID can get to me. He said, I don't think it's going to enter this body. Which, by the way, the confidence that drips off your mouth when you say enter this body. Not my body, this body, as if it is different. Because let's be for real, it is. It's different than everybody else's. It's elite. Enter this body. I don't want any parts of it. It doesn't want any parts of me. I think it's mutual respect. I wasn't really worried about the test. Hopefully Drake uses that in a new song. Side note, that's why this episode is called Mutual Respect.
Yeah, mutual respect for Odell Beckham and COVID-19. It's an interesting take. We've heard people say people have been anti-mask, they've been anti the science and everything, but this guy is anti-COVID. He's just anti-COVID. He's like, this ain't. That's what I'm saying.
This. He's like anti-COVID, bro. That's what I'm saying, guys. Odell Beckham Jr. is just anti-COVID. That's it. And on top of that, like, once again, he's not out here like, oh, it's not real. He said mutual respect, bro. From me to COVID, it respects me. I respect it. And I'm like, goddamn, Martin, I think we all be better off if people had that mentality. Like, I think we all be in a better place if people just had that mentality of like, you know what, man? I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that COVID don't get in this body because I respect it. Respect the virus.
Yeah, this one was
Be
a
like
funny
Odell.
one.
Be like Odell, guys.
Respect it. You gotta have mutual respect for it. You know
Respect it. I'm just saying. Everybody's talking about like how he sounds crazy. I'm like, he said he respects the virus, which is a huge step ahead of a lot of people in this country, Martin.
Yeah, mutual respect. That's the name of the episode as well. Shout out featuring Howard Beck. Shout out to him for coming on and talking to us for almost for about, what was that, about 45 minutes, 45 minutes?
Yeah, like 40
Yeah.
plus minutes, man. It was a
Yeah.
great time, man.
Yeah.
Also, I just like to point out, definitely sold him on Space Jam 2.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, this is the Space
I'm
Jam.
just saying.
I was honestly, I mean, it made sense when he said his reasoning that he hadn't seen it because he was an adult when it came out.
Oh
But,
yeah, because he's an adult.
But like you and I, we were kids back in the mid '90s when it came out, and like I went back and looked while we were playing the interview just to like see when it was released. It was released in '96. I moved to America in '95,
Yeah.
so like that was literally my introduction to like the MJ craze and I mean all that good stuff. But we move on from the worst to the worst and best to the best, Ashton. Now we go to about a week ago, where if we were allowed to play copyrighted music and not get a DMCA stripe for it, we'd be playing "Moving On Up, Moving On Up." Do you not know the song, Ashton? Come on, man. Moving on up to the
Yeah, I mean, Martin, I know this song. I'm just not gonna join you in that terrible rendition of it.
Oh, come on, that wasn't
I
terrible.
refuse.
That was.
I mean,
You know what else is terrible?
ladies
Playing
and
for the
gentlemen.
fucking New York Jets and the Bengals as the two teams as you start your career in the NFL. Jordan Willis moving on up. He's been traded and heading out west because the 49ers need some help on defense. Ashton.
Yeah, Jordan Willis, man. You want to talk about? I mean, shout out to his agent. So this is Jordan Willis' path. Drafted by the Bengals. You want to talk about? I mean, cool. That's cool. You got drafted. You got money and stuff. But like, the Bengals, 2017. So like on the back half of when they were actually good that one season, the Bengals, man, brought there, gets cut from the Bengals, which has gotta hurt. It's gotta hurt like in your heart. It's gotta hurt in your heart. It's like, you guys suck. How you gonna tell me I suck and you suck? It's just like getting cut from the Browns. Which, by the way, I want to say the greatest cut in Browns history. Turbo Taylor Gabriel, wide receiver, went from cut by the Browns to joining the Falcons the year they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. That will always forever be like one of the best. I was like, wow, man, you want to talk about killing the game. Taylor Gabriel went from like the worst team in the NFL to at the time going into the Super Bowl, the Falcons were the best team in the NFL. So that happened. But yeah, he gets cut from the Bengals, goes to the Jets. That's a great. There's nothing great about the Jets. They are maybe perhaps higher profile. You're living in a better place than Cincinnati. All kinds of stuff. You're probably getting a little bit more money. But yeah, he's playing for the Jets, getting some time, and then Adam Gase shows up. Things get bad. They get pretty bad. And now, right when things are about to fly completely off the rails, which, let's be honest, they already have. But they've flown off the rails, and now they're falling down into the ravine where, hopefully for them, with his grandiose arms stretched out to catch them all, is Trevor Lawrence. But before they hit the bottom of the ravine, Jordan Willis hopped off that train, and he's going somewhere else. He's going to the 49ers, which, by the way, slowly but surely working his way up the tiers of teams in the NFL. Whatever you have to say about the 49ers, they are better than the Bengals and the Jets. So Jordan Willis, his agent working some magic, because according to what everybody else has been saying, Jordan Willis has been a disappointment as a player in the NFL. So, by the way, like, wow, guys, like, tell us how you really feel. Got traded, by the way, went from cut to traded. So, like, at some point was cut from a team, but now worth being traded to an actual legitimate football team, right? In the 49ers. But
it's going to be,
yeah, man.
I'm looking at the
That's
details here. It's going to be Jordan Willis and a 7th round pick in 2021. And the 49ers giving up a 6th round pick in 2022. So, the 49ers need all the help they can get, especially at defensive end. So they're basically just saying, like, look, we'll give up a pick in not this year's but next year's draft to try and get a little bit of help this year. They're in a tough, probably one of the toughest conference or divisions in the NFL right now. So they need all the help they can get, Ashton. And also about a week ago, Yannick Ngakoue, he was on the Minnesota Vikings now he's on his way out as well. We're talking a couple of trades
Hopping
here.
off the train.
Yeah, the trade train is starting to pick up as the NFL deadline looms, and I believe just over a week's time. Correct? It's like November 3rd, November 5th.
Yeah, it's the end of next week.
Yeah, end of next week. So we're getting close to seeing if the Texans make any deals. If you've been paying attention to trade rumors, Randall Cobb is apparently possibly on his way out, but Yannick Ngakoue, he's also getting traded. I'm trying to pull up what the Baltimore gave up. It looks like a 2021 third round pick and a 2022 conditional fifth round pick to get a little bit more help for the Baltimore Ravens. Ashton and I, we talked about this before we went live on air. Is this a sign that the Vikings are just they're moving on from 2020? They're ready to get to the offseason as soon as possible.
They're like, well, we tried. 6 weeks into the season, well, we tried, guys. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, it is. It may be a sign that it is time for them to move on. I will say this: Yannick Ngakoue started off pretty rough at the beginning of the season. If you recall, Yannick used to play for the Jaguars. He's on a pretty nice path.
Yeah,
on the way up. He skipped a couple of levels. Used to play for the Jags, now play for the Vikings. Then it didn't pan out with the Vikings. He started off a little slow. He started off a little slow. Played for the Vikings a little slow, and then he picked it up. He played really well in that Texans game, especially on that last drive. He got like a ton of pressure on Deshaun Watson, even though Deshaun, of course, like in some cases, Deshaun is pressure proof, right? And he has nerves of steel sometimes. But Yannick had a really nice game. I think he had 2 sacks in total and like 4 pressures. So that's a really good game for a defensive end. And now he's playing for the he's playing for the Baltimore Ravens, who are third in the NFL in blitz percentage. So hopefully he's been working on his conditioning, because it seemed like they got one thing in mind when it comes to them calling defenses. They send in everybody and their mama to come play. By the way, we can talk about this a little bit later on too. I should have put this at best of the best. Kenyon Drake's mom called him and asked him if Kenyon Drake's mom, Mama Drake, called and asked if is he going to continue to go east and west, or is he going to decide that he wants to actually play football and go north and south up the field. And then Kenyon Drake ran for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Speaking of that, got to pour one out for my homie Kevin. He followed me at Martin Pape _ on Twitter. I responded to Scott Hansen with this one because it was one of those fantasy football moments where you're just like, all you can do is laugh at it. So he's joined us in the chat.
I was gonna say he's right there putting in the sad
emoji.
Wow. The man who Martin is talking about just jumped into the chat. Wow, that's perfect. Literally, that's great time.
So before the game, he's like, I don't care how the Cardinals-Cowboys games goes. I just can't have a big game from Kenyon Drake. And, of course, he pops off. And then 2 minutes to go. All the Cardinals need to do is kneel it out. And what do? He texts me. He's like, hold on. I can pull it up because it's one of those ones where it's just like it's literally like he jinxed himself. Like we were talking on the show that it's Ashton Jinx Lewis now. This is one of those ones where this is one of my most liked tweets ever, Ashton, by the way.
Well, congratulations, guys. You've been suckered into a fantasy football story on our non-fantasy football podcast, which, by the way, you should check that out. On Tuesdays, we recap every single game in the NFL from the week before and talk about everything that we learned, what we think is going to happen for the foreseeable future. We talk about big injuries. We talk about rookies that are playing very well. And it's just our Tuesday show. So hop in on Twitch at twitch.tv or Broke Boy Sports. And also you can check us out on, of course, every other platform, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, on Deezer, and a bunch of other places as well. So, yeah, that being said, Martin is going to regale us with a fantasy football story that's pretty simplistic. He doesn't need to pull up the text. He doesn't really... just explain the heartbreak.
If Kenyon Drake scores here in garbage time, I'm a fucking scream. 3 minutes later, all caps. Wait, did he? Are you serious? And I'm literally, at this point, just typing 2 letters. Like, dude, all they had to do was kneel it out, Ashton. And instead, they hand it off to Kenyon Drake. He bounces it to the right, and there's no Cowboys in sight for a 70-yard touchdown run. Talk about garbage time. Like, I mean, it's brutal. I feel sorry for Turkey. He's in our. He's actually one of the members of the mediocre fantasy football league that you and I have running for the show. And we brought up Kenyon Drake, so I just had to share that unfortunate story for my boy Turkey. Thanks for joining us here on Twitch.tv, Broke Boy Sports. Kevin, or Turkey, as he likes to be known. But we move on from about a week ago, Ashton, to now. We talking money, or are we talking money? And LaMelo, he's got himself a sneaker deal.
Yeah, LaMelo Ball has officially made his choice for the preemptive, assumed to be number one pick of this upcoming NBA draft, potentially going to, if things go the right way, maybe, just maybe, slip to the Golden State Warriors if all things go the right way. Although I think the Warriors are in the James Wiseman business. But we'll talk about the NBA draft as it draws closer. It's just around the corner. We talked about that with Howard Beck a little bit if you looked at how wild the schedule is, because we don't really know when anything is going to happen. But nonetheless, LaMelo has signed a sneaker deal with Puma, which is going to be huge for Puma overall. They've got Kyle Kuzma signed up for the roster, and they've got LaMelo Ball, two guys that one is an NBA champion, the other one is the hottest dude on the block when it comes to Instagram domination, Twitter domination as well. He's got his own show on Facebook, all in the Ball family or whatever. Ball in the Family, I believe, is the name of the Facebook show, where of course features his other brother who's in the NBA, who's pretty good, plays with the Pelicans, almost made the playoffs or whatever, and then LaGello. Or is it Jello, right? That's LiAngelo,
yeah,
who plays in the G League right now, and then of course their father. Moving on, check that out. That's a huge win for Puma to sign one of the biggest dudes coming into just the NBA draft, and a guy who's going to have a lot of attention surrounded around him leading up to it, and having their logo all over the NBA draft coverage, I'm assuming in the draft day photos as well. And then, of course, involving him in everything that they do on Instagram and on social media, getting him dope pics to be able to post for himself on his Instagram that has millions of followers at this point, because he's been one of the most hyped up prospects to come into basketball since he was in middle school, which is insane to think about.
He's got 5.6 million followers on Instagram, by the way.
Yeah, and that's not including what he has on Twitter. That's not including the stuff that goes along with, other platforms, especially on Facebook, where, the show is popping off. I think the show's like in its fourth season or something like that. But yeah, and him being able to sign with Puma is actual real shoe money, unlike what he would be getting from his dad, probably.
So I'm trying to see what the actual deal is. I'm not seeing any.
His deal might be, the base platform for a guy who might be a generational talent is like 10 years, 100 mil. Oh. So that may be the situation going on for him. And you have to assume that there's. Yeah, I mean that happens with certain soccer players all the time, right?
Anyway, for sure. It's just crazy,
with Pulisic, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you can't even drink alcohol, but you can sign a 10-year, $100 million contract. It's wild.
I feel like you can bribe a bouncer to look the other way a couple times. Anyway, especially when you got 100 mil to throw around, plus your NBA contract money and everything like that, which could potentially be, I mean, outside the top five, outside the lottery picks, the money's not all that great. It's good, but it's not NBA good. And eventually it will be, because he's gonna be on a world tour. The kid's gonna be like a rock star, just like when he went to Australia and everybody kind of forgot about him for a while. And when he came back out, if you weren't keeping up to him, which by the way, if you ever want to read a good article, just type in Mirin Fader, Mirinfader, and look at her profile on LaMelo and his life in Australia, because he actually enjoyed it a little bit, because he was far away from America and all the media that was covering him, but he also just kind of did his own thing when he was out there, worked on his game a little bit, but he's got a lot.
Didn't he buy the team that he played for?
He almost bought it. Almost. They wouldn't let him buy it. So that being said, he almost pulled that off and then came back to America in the process, man. So he's been on a wild journey, and hopefully it pans out for him in the NBA, and hopefully he's as good as a lot of people say he is and have been saying he is for years, because the hype around LaMelo is for real, and the question starts to become naturally what is his game going to look like in the NBA? So that's just something to talk about. We talking money, or we talking money? Because honestly, they're paying him a couple $1 million. There's billions on the line for Puma, because if LaMelo blows up and he becomes a signature shoe kind of guy, they could build an entire platform of shoes around just LaMelo as a basketball player, and it'll put Puma squarely in the competition for the sneaker wars.
Yeah,
You
next
got
year.
anything for media suggestions here, man?
I was just gonna give a little shout out again to Howard Beck. Go follow him at Howard Beck on Twitter. Check out the full 48 that just wrapped up, and all the other content that he's been putting out there. He joined us. Nice of him to take some time to come and talk to you and I, and just want to give him another shout out. Pretty cool to see a guy of his stature come on our podcast, man. Like when we say that's the biggest guest we've had, or at least since I've joined you and become the co-host of this, like it's pretty cool to see somebody that like as big as Howard Beck and like in the know with the NBA world will come on our podcast. So that's my media suggestion. Ashton, I don't know if you've had anything else. We've got one more segment, but two more parts of that segment to go. NFL Week 7. We're gonna take a preview and put our picks in for all the games. We've still got a little while to go before the Thursday night football game kicks off, so we're doing pretty well on time actually. And then we've also got the UFC nickname picks, Ashton, and this one UFC 254, baby. Khabib versus Gaethje.
Yeah, we're gonna have to be real specific about who's talking when, because one of us apparently has a death wish and the other one is me. So when we get to that point, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. You'll know. All right, man. So we're starting off with the starting off with the NFL stuff. The buys so far: the Indianapolis Colts, another week to buy the fake hype that they've been living off of for a while. Tua Tagovailoa is in his bye week, and I would imagine like at some point, like there's no way. Like people talk about he gets 2 weeks to prepare. I'm like, dude, motherfuckers be gone. Like they're going home for the bye week. And I'm imagining that Tua's going to Hawaii if his parents are going back to the island. If his parents are still there, I know they moved to Tuscaloosa and all that kind of stuff. But
I think weren't they like in talks of moving down to Miami to be with him?
Yeah, he's got one. You know what? I'm not here to comment on anybody's family dynamic or anything like that. Tua's dad is very much involved with his son's life. Yeah, and he has another one that's playing at Alabama. He has another one that's at Alabama as well. So he probably lives in Tuscaloosa still.
No, he transferred.
Oh, he transferred. I did not know that.
Talia.
Yeah.
Talia Tagovailoa. He's now he transferred over to the University of Maryland, who I think has an old Alabama coach now as well.
I would imagine so. You know how rehab goes at Alabama, man. Some dudes show up there, they do their bid, and then they head out because
but
it's not
it'll
fun
be interesting
there
to see where his family is. We've also got the Vikings and the Vikings and Ravens on a bye this week, so a couple of them making trade, or two teams making a trades on their bye week. Ashton, that's an interesting one, but unfortunately,
the guy who they cut out of the building, right?
You got 2 weeks now. You don't got to get going. So on the Tuesday episodes, we start with the Texans. On the Thursday episode, we start with Thursday Night Football and kind of just go from there. So
and
Martin.
Yeah. Martin, we need to have a conversation. Guys, gals, the days, all of our brothers and sisters, no matter where they may be. I implore you, I ask, I beg. If we all choose not to watch Thursday Night Football, did it happen?
Well,
is it real if we all didn't collectively watch it? So it is the Giants versus the Eagles, Martin, who have a combined 2 wins, which is 50% more than the ties between these two teams. They have a combined 9 losses. Guys, we can do better. We don't have to eat the trash. We deserve the filet mignon. Because if we keep letting the NFL slap us in the face with their metaphorical penis, they're going to keep doing it. We don't have to tolerate this. We don't have to accept this. And I beg, please don't watch this game.
Ashton, because it'll get us
it'll get us one step closer to not having to watch Thursday Night Football anymore. But yeah, go ahead.
I got one reason that you can tune in to Thursday Night Football tonight, Ashton, and that is if you are on the Thrive Fantasy app on your Google Play or Apple App Store. I almost got it right, Ashton. We're gonna get it eventually. By the end of the season, I'm gonna get that correctly out. But I mean, we've got two. I was gonna make a joke and say two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but who are we kidding? It's Daniel Jones and Carson Wentz going head to head on Thursday Night Football. It's gonna be one of those games. Like we used to make fun of the Titans Jaguars on Thursday Night Football each and every year. This is this year's Titans Jaguars Thursday Night Football game. But if
Hey
you want to have some fun with
by
it,
the way, I was gonna say, Martin, you can 100% use promo code BrokeBoy, get $20 for free on your first initial deposit if it is $20. You can totally do that on the Thrive Fantasy app. As Mittens walks into the camera, what's up, Mittens? Anyway,
wait,
the other,
wait,
no, I was gonna say
oh,
you can totally
There's
do
Mittens.
that. You can totally do that and not watch the game. You could totally bet the prop and not watch the game, guys. It's really not that hard. Do better. Do better. You deserve better. Mittens isn't going to watch Thursday Night Football, so
Nope.
you shouldn't.
Nope. She's looking for every other reason besides to watch Thursday Night Football. But Ashton, we've got to actually talk about it. I mean, you kind of already said it in a nutshell what it's going to be. It's going to be two poor teams. One of them extremely injury ridden. The list of players that have missed at least one game for Philadelphia is quite long. New York on the other side, they're without their guy Saquon. Their offense has been poor, extremely poor all season. The defense, however, a sneaky decent season. They're not a 1-5 defense. That's all I'll say about the New York Giants, Ashton. And the Philadelphia Eagles, they, for some reason, I mean, they beat the 49ers, and other than that, they haven't arrived for any other game this season.
So the theory that I have on this one, man, like you just said, that one win is very important to take note of, right? My thing is the Philadelphia defense good enough to get more possessions for the Eagles offense, right? Because the Eagles should win this game off talent across the board. They have the best talent at the key positions. The Giants defense, not impressive, right? They lost their number one pressure creator, right? We talked about that last week and the week before that, to be honest, as well. But fact of the matter is, man, like the Eagles defense should be aiming at a shutout in this game, Martin. That should be the goal, like going into this. Darius Slay is defending actually Slayton, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eric Slayton, I forgot what Darius Slayton.
Yeah.
Darius Slay versus Darius Slayton is the matchup.
There you go. That's it. I can't wait for Joe Buck and Troy Aikman to get that one correct once.
Hey, at least they won't call him Lamar Murray, so we can move on from that. But yeah, I mean, like Martin, this seems to be like an open shut type case, but we know how Thursday Night Football is, man. It moves in mysterious ways. I'm just saying, I'm not here to try and sell you on watching that piece of shit game, but I know you're gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it too.
Look, how many months did we go without sports, Ashton? We've said it. I can guarantee. I could probably go back and find 10 different times that we said, "Give us Jaguars Titans on Thursday night if it means we've got sports." And as bad as it's gonna, like, remember when we said the Dolphins Jaguars game is gonna be bad? That one turned out not too bad. I mean, it was a kind of a blowout, but at least there was something going on. The real question is, how many points will the Giants offense score? Their defense will probably keep Philadelphia in check. The Giants offense, however, I mean, they couldn't score in a brothel. You know what I'm fucking saying? Like, they couldn't. Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, I feel so bad for the guy because he had one good game when he came into the NFL, and people put that expectation on him that he was the second coming of fucking Eli Manning, and
they want him to be average so bad.
He can't even live up to that. You've got Carson Wentz, who's taking sacks left, right, and center. You got no offensive line. I'm going Giants.
Wow.
Simply because they got
best unit. Because of Thursday Night Football, that makes sense. So Thursday Night Football is all about the team that makes no sense winning. So yeah.
They have the best unit of all, offense defense versus offense defense. Their defense beats the Philadelphia Eagles offense, in my opinion. The Eagles defense and the Giants offense, who fucking knows, dude? Like, I mean, Eagles tied the Bengals, Ashton. Like,
I'm not gonna to avoid a conversation. That was weeks ago, man. That's the past. Why you always bringing up the
come on.
past? Like, why you always bringing up the past, man? Anyway, I disagree with that. I think the Eagles are the better team on both sides of the ball, and more so, the defense of the Eagles is better than the offense of the Giants, especially if the Eagles' offense that we saw play against the Ravens shows up. I think even half of that offense is good enough to play against the Giants and beat
No
them.
Miles
But it is
Sanders.
yeah, no Miles Sanders, but like I said before, once again, not surprised. Injuries, like, come on, guys, like everybody's hurt. We get it, Martin. Everybody's hurt all the time.
Sterling Shepard's back
like
for the Giants.
even the mascot for the Eagles is hurt. Like, we know this. Like, it happens. Anyway, we spent way too much time talking about that actual game. I'm going with the Eagles. Martin's going with the Giants. So naturally, he's probably about to get screwed on this one. But more than likely, it's Thursday Night Football, which is basically the Twilight Zone.
Who knows
I'll
what's
take the
gonna
L.
happen? Yeah, like
Yeah.
Thursday Night Football is the
Moving
one
on.
game of the week where it's like just flip a coin. This next one, Ashton, is the Texans are welcoming the Green Bay Packers to NRG Stadium this weekend. I believe some fans will be in the stands. It'll be interesting to see. Last time we saw fans in the stands in NRG, there was some booing. Now there might be some celebrating. However, both teams coming off tough losses, to say the least. The Packers, Aaron Rodgers is going to be pissed the fuck off. However, we said a week ago and on Tuesday's episode, the worst thing about the Texans is their rushing defense. How well is Aaron Jones going to bounce back after his poor performance against the Buccaneers? I could see A-Rod going for like 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like, I don't know. But the Texans, it's going to be a shootout. Hopefully, it's another shootout. That's what we. As long as they're competitive for the rest of the season, Ashton, I don't care if they win or lose. The AFC South dreams crashed and burned last week in overtime when
That's
King
actually
Henry.
not true. You get another shot at the Tennessee Titans, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So
it's all but dead and gone. They had to run the table, at least in the AFC South, I think.
Remember, Martin lost his faith. Don't forget that. Somebody clip that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then we got the Packers, who are going to be pissed off. That's. I don't really have to say more than that.
I don't believe in that bullshit. So here it is. Here it is, folks. Here it is. Pay attention. Everybody, lean in real quick. I got it for you. You heard it here first. Packers are 4-1. Texans are 1-5. Right? What does that say? It says the Packers are better than the Texans right now. Here's some other things that are really important to know about the Packers. The Packers are 32nd in pressure in the games that they've played so far, which means they're dead last in the NFL in pressures. If there's been one thing that has been in the way of Deshaun Watson's success, it is the amount of pressure that he found himself under. I will remind you, last week, first time the Texans gave up 0 sacks in a football game, and it just so happened to coincide with the highest scoring game of the season for the Houston Texans. Another thing that you should probably know about the Green Bay Packers, they're 31st in tackles for loss. They're 6th in completion percentage surrendered, which, by the way, Deshaun Watson coming off his highest completion percentage per attempt this entire season. The Packers are also 18th in sacks. They're also pretty high in yards surrendered. This one's going to be a party, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a fun one. It might come down to the last play of the game, which, of course, I would give to the Green Bay Packers because Aaron Rodgers is just that guy. But I'm interested to see if we talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what they did to the Green Bay Packers last week, right? We know for a fact that if there's a spectrum, there's the Texans defense over here on the left, and then there's the Buccaneers defense here on the right. And then there's a huge trough in between the two of those defenses, right? In particular, when it comes to generating pressure. But I implore you, I beg of you to think about this. J.J. Watt playing pretty well. Wide receiver core for the Green Bay Packers. One guy, Devontae Adams. We saw a great game from Bradley Roby last week versus A.J. Brown a good chunk of that time. A.J. Brown had a pretty good game, right? Valdez Scantling, who has had some opportunities against some weaker secondaries and not performed very well. Aaron Jones is, of course, one of the best in the game, right? Dual threat. We know who's out here to kill the Texans. We know the names that they need to focus on. They know that they got to stop Devontae Adams or contain. They know they got to contain Devontae Adams. They know they got to contain Aaron Jones. They know Aaron Rodgers is elite when it comes to hitting that pass window. Now, Martin, who else do they got to stop?
I can't even tell you the tight end for the Buccaneers, but
on defense, on defense, Martin, who they got to worry about?
I don't know. Half their defense is apparently injured. I'm looking at the Green Bay Packers injury report. Jair Alexander, full participant both days, even though he's got a hand and knee injury. 1, 2, 3, 4 linebackers, limited participants. They've got Mercedes Lewis did not practice today. Let's see. Aquemius St. Brown, he's the wide receiver. He limited. The tight end, their starting tight end, hasn't practiced the past 2 days. So, yeah, they got some injury questions.
Martin.
You're not going to convince me. I'm not changing my vote or my pick.
Martin. I just told you that the Packers, and just like everybody else in NFL, knows who they had to stop. They just got a glimpse of what it takes to be able to stop the Green Bay Packers on a regular basis. Aaron Jones, very good running back. There's no question about that. Offensive line had one of their worst performances last week against a defense that is significantly better than the Houston Texans. Do you, at the very least, think that this game is going to be close?
No, it's not. Because
hilarious.
It's not going to.
Hilarious.
It may be a shootout, Ashton, but it could be a shootout in the terms of the Browns-Cowboys earlier this season, where what was it, 49-38? I don't really consider that to be too
That's
close.
Actually a good comparison. No, that's a good comparison.
That's how I see it going.
I struggle seeing it that way. As a matter of fact, I see the Texans getting the win in this game.
Here's my final point on this game before we move on. They have one common opponent so far this year, and that's the Vikings.
Mm-hmm. The Vikings, right?
Yeah. Green Bay, 43-34. Houston, 31-23. That tells me all I need to know about this one. Give me the Packers. Next game.
as if the Texans are the same team that they were just 2 weeks ago, despite every piece of evidence that shows that they've scored more points since that game every single game, right?
Hey,
they've gotten more sacks every single game since that game. I'm just saying, man. You sitting here talking that does okay, whatever. By the way, everybody knows what the huge flaw in common opponents is, right? It's because never mind. Matchups matter, folks. Matchups matter. Yeah, Go ahead, Martin.
Huh? Yeah, I'm
one of those.
Packers.
I'm just saying their common opponent is a divisional team for one of the teams, which changes the dynamic of that game.
And the Texans couldn't even keep it close. It is what it is. We move on to what is possibly, or what some people will believe is the best game of this entire week, even though we've got a classic
time to find out who the real fraud
Exactly.
is.
Like, which one of these undefeated teams is going to be 6-0 at the end of it? It's the postponed game from a couple of weeks ago, Ashton. Pittsburgh heading to Nashville, 5-0, Titans and Steelers.
Blue kind of sus for the Among Us players listening.
Yeah, the Titans, I'm hitting the emergency button because they had to go to overtime against the Texans. The Steelers, they didn't need overtime against the Texans, their common opponent. And, as somebody who picked the Steelers to go to the Super Bowl, I am a little worried about the Devin Bush.
Hold on.
I was just gonna say the Devin Bush injury. That's worrying.
Are we gonna point out how the Texans had one of their best offensive performances of the season with Bill O'Brien as their head coach versus the Steelers, or no? Okay. I'm just making sure they're all on the same page because you're trying to act like the Texans are the same team.
21 points ain't that impressive to me, especially against.
Okay.
If you're impressed by 21 points, I mean.
Y'all love to remove context, man. I don't know what it is.
What context is there? It's 21 points.
Bro, if you act, you watched that game. The second half of that game is where the Steelers really turned it on. But before that, the Houston Texans were eviscerating their defense, which, by the way, is something that I feel like maybe if you think Ryan Tannehill's a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson, that might be something you're banking on in this game.
I don't think anybody. I don't think I've heard that argument.
I think there's a good chunk of people who do believe that, Martin. But yeah. But I was gonna my point on this one is like the Steelers overall position by position, Martin, better team, right? Name one position that the Titans are better than the Steelers because it ain't in none of the secondary, none of the linebackers, none of the defensive linemen. If you think Jadeveon Clowney is better than maybe Tuitt or something like that, or Cameron Hayward, I totally I can maybe give you that, but he's not better than T.J. Watt right now. A running back position, you could say Derrick Henry over James Conner, right?
Yeah.
Offensive line is a struggle, right? Tight end, Giannis Smith is better than Eric Ebron in their offensive sets. So they got tight end and they got running back, right? We know for a fact they're a significantly better defense than the Houston Texans, right? Since you want to talk about common opponents, we're talking about more recent common opponents, right? We know for a fact that they're significantly better defensively than the Houston Texans. As a matter of fact, they specialize in blitzing the ball, which of course Mike Vrabel is fully aware of, which means that one of their biggest things that could come out of this game and burn them, eviscerate them possibly, Martin, is A.J. Brown in single man coverage. A.J. Brown in one-on-ones because they send extra people. A.J. Brown over the middle because they're sending extra people from the middle gaps to try and get to Ryan Tannehill, who is, I don't know if you guys know this or not, former wide receiver at Texas A&M.
Yep.
I had to mention it just so every time you mention his name at some point or another, you got to mention it. He used to be a wide receiver, right? But yeah, no, you're talking about them going up against a dual threat quarterback. And then on the other side, I don't see any way that the Tennessee Titans defense all of a sudden plays 10 times better than they have against a better offense. Probably the best offense, actually the best offense they've played all season, right? I don't see them like playing better, right? Unless they just magically step up or anything like that. The biggest thing that they have on their side is the Steelers' downfield play, like big plays down the field, like actual air yards down the field, is almost non-existent this season, right? But when you have 3 wide receivers you legitimately have to worry about, Martin, against a secondary that got killed by Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb, and an assortment of other wide receivers, right? Just a week ago, it makes you wonder how bad this game is going to get, because I feel like this is one of those moments where the Steelers go out here and get a 2-touchdown win. Yeah, and it's not because of the Titans. I just did that logic in my head. I just feel like, I mean, am I that wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. But here's the thing. You and I grew up in the era of Lil Wayne. One of his songs, "Numbers Don't Lie." Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Let me give you some facts. Before I get into that, Turkey came into the chat.
Put you up on game, young player.
Yeah, Turkey came into the chat, and I guess he's talking about the Texans game real quick. He said Romeo's going to see how the Bucks front four wreaked havoc, and is going to try and recreate that with JJ and Whitney Merciless.
They don't have the talent to be able to do that. Yeah.
Good luck getting Whitney Merciless to do anything. That dude signed his contract and he's went to sleep. Just like every other linebacker that the Texans had.
Whitney's got a couple of pressures, and then on top of that, I will say this: his run defense grade has been better. His pass rush, pass rush win percentage, pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's really bad. So like some of the numbers, my boy Rivers put out on Twitter about like pre-contract versus post-contract, like it's sickening. It's so sick to look like. Not as sick in a good way either. But here's some stats for you, Ashton. This vaunted Titans defense who has played the Broncos, Jaguars. Oh, no, not you or I, but people talking. They've played the Broncos, Jaguars, Vikings, Bills, Texans, and are giving up 409 yards per game. Yeah. 272 yards in the air, 137 on the ground. Let me turn the page over to my boys playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are averaging.
Hey, so,
by the way, I was gonna say,
Martin. I was gonna say, there's one thing to also point out about the Pittsburgh defense. They have a streak of 10 straight games with a turnover, and the Titans, they have like the highest turnover differential, like positive wise in the NFL. The one thing to point out, man, they get one pick, and if you go back and look at every single one of those games you just mentioned, Martin, what kept those other offenses in the game is the turnovers from the Tennessee Titans offense. Yeah. So
Steelers, their schedule not much more impressive. Like Ashton said on Tuesday, these two teams, was it Both of them are like
Yeah,
9
it's
and something.
9
Their
and
records.
20 and 9 and 19, I
Yeah,
think.
the crazy ass records of like the team. So the Giants, Broncos, Texans. So basically, they've both played 5 bad offenses. They actually have a couple of. So the Broncos and Texans are their common opponents. Yeah, Broncos, Texans are the common opponents, but neither of them have really played anyone too bad. But the Titans are still giving up over 400 yards of offense to those terrible teams, whereas the Steelers, they're 285 yards per game, 219 through the air. Ashton on the ground. This Pittsburgh Steelers team, even though they're without Devin Bush, now 66 yards per game through these 5 games so far. What have we talked about a lot recently? The strength and strength versus weakness. You've got King Henry and the rushing attack for the Titans going up against a team giving up only 66 yards on the ground. Something's got to give there. By the way, the Steelers are the only team that have yet to give up over 100 points total on the season, whereas the Titans, they're at 126. They're averaging 25 points a game. The Steelers defense 18 points a game. We already know how good the offense is for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got wide receivers out the ass. Titans, they have fucking Ryan Tannehill throwing the ball to people named Adam Humphrey. I don't want to talk too much more about this game, Ashton, because
AJ
I'm
Brown,
hammering the Steelers.
to their credit, man, like AJ Brown was a really talented rookie wide receiver. Giannu Smith is getting better and better. Giannu Smith's deadly in the red zone, if you didn't know. But yeah, it's AJ Brown, and then when Corey Davis is in there, he kind of does his job as the number 2 wide receiver. But like AJ Brown is the dude that they run everything to, and Fiskers is, I mean, he played well last week. He had 113 yards, right? So I doubt that'll be the case for him this week. But nonetheless, they're.
I don't think he'll ever have over 100 yards again.
Oh wow, Martin just like ended a dude's career. He was just like, I don't think he'll ever get even close to that.
He's not. No, that was his career game. Ashton, who are you picking? Steelers, Titans.
Yeah, I'll take the Steelers, man.
Same here.
And it's just because like I said before, overall they have more talent than the Tennessee Titans. And Ryan Tannehill, like to his credit, man, been playing better every single game, except when they got to the playoffs and kind of disappeared. But this is one of the few teams where I expect them to go out here and starch Derrick Henry this season. So that'll be interesting. Derrick Henry is leading by a lot in the NFL in terms of carries. He has more carries individually than some teams have in total this season per like this 6 weeks or whatever. But yeah, I'm excited to watch this game though. Yeah. Like I'm interested to see how this mixes up a little bit, because this could, I don't know, something in my mind makes me think this is going to get ugly for the Titans. And even though they've done, I mean, what they've done this season is very impressive, and it's a huge head start on pretty much everybody else in the AFC South, and it could be what helps them outlast. And if it comes down to like winning the AFC South championship or whatever, and it comes down to like overall record or something like that, this hot start could be the difference. So we'll see.
Next one,
moving on.
Yep.
Yeah, a not fun one.
Yeah,
Lions
this one
versus Falcons.
We can get through this one pretty quickly, Ashton. Matt Patricia is still coaching for his job. The Falcons, they saw enough of Danny Quinn.
Is he?
I
feel like he's not. Like,
I mean, just looking at these two teams so far this season, you would say even though the records are 1-5 and for the Falcons and 2-3 for Detroit, it's safe to say that
update if you're watching live, Deshaun Jackson is going to play, Martin. That's going to be huge.
So, yeah. I mean, we have to agree that Atlanta's got, I don't know, like, does Atlanta have the better offense? Because I don't know how to feel about this. This is one of those games that I don't know.
Yeah, this is. I mean, there's a lot of good wide receivers involved in this one, for sure. And when it comes down to running back, like of course the Falcons have the better running back situation going on for sure with Todd Gurley. But wide receiver wise, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Allen Gage, and everything like that. That's really nice. That's really nice across the board. And then you talk about Kenny Golladay, looking pretty good out there, and he's typically one of the best players. And it's a question of whether or not they're going to play. You have the injuries pulled up or anything yet? But yeah, the Lions, man, they got a huge win last week against the bad Jags team, and that's just kind of like where it feels like they peter out a little bit. By the way, the Falcons have gotten like so lucky on opponents this season, and they just can't win. Like they're playing some of the worst teams in the NFL. Yeah. Like, you look at what we know about the Cowboys now, or like what the Cowboys look like now, and even like what's happened to the Cowboys since they played them. But anyway,
Marvin Jones. Jones is questionable. Desmond Trufant's questionable. Danny Amendola is questionable. Trey Flowers is questionable, and some guy named Frank Ragnow, who's a center. He's
Frank
questionable.
Ragnow, he has like the highest paid center in the NFL, I think.
Really?
He's also got an episode of Bussin' with the Boys. He's like a mad outdoorsy kind of dude, which doesn't surprise you with a guy with the last name Ragnow, I'm assuming. But yeah, check that out, man. Check that out for sure. Don't check out this game. Check out that episode of Bussin' with the Boys where they tapped up Frank Ragnow. But anyway,
The
Lions
better
versus
defense,
Falcons,
better defense, I'd say Lions. Better offense, I'd say the Falcons. So
and not
that'll
by
be
a lot.
yeah.
I will
I
take
really
the
don't
Falcons
know.
on this.
You're taking the
I'll
Falcons?
take the Falcons. Yeah, I'll take the Falcons on this one, man. Even though I know if it comes down to the last drive, it's definitely gonna be the Lions who win it. But I feel like the Falcons. I feel like the Falcons are in a position where their offense is gonna flourish here, and they're gonna pull away. But once again, oh by the way, another big fuck you to Jeff Okuda, right? He's got to defend Julio Jones this week.
So common opponent
or Calvin Ridley.
So common opponent, Atlanta lost to Green Bay 30-16. Detroit lost 42-21. So even then, it's like, dude, I mean, the only thing that I'm leaning the Packers on, or sorry, leaning the Lions on here, Ashton, they were able to stop the Arizona Cardinals offense in that win they had a couple weeks ago. Whereas Atlanta's, they sort of, the only team they've been able to stop is the Vikings. I
One
really
thing
don't
that
know.
also another thing that helps me pick Falcons is that the Lions specialize in like low pressure games. Like they do not get pressure well, and almost some of it is by design. They're about like lane integrity and everything like that.
Yeah.
So it makes me think, Matt Ryan's gonna have more time in the pocket to make decisions, which goes a long way in terms of like pulling away from a team. So I expect the Falcons to come out here and get this win pretty easily, man.
I'm gonna go Lions. I don't feel comfortable about it at all. I think the best. I was gonna say the best unit in this game is the Lions defense, but it might be Atlanta's offense. I don't know. I
It is
feel
by
like
far
Atlanta's
Atlanta's
defense.
offense.
Atlanta's defense is the worst unit. Like, I think. I think the worst unit in this one is Atlanta. It would go for me. Lions defense, Falcons offense, Lions offense, Falcons defense. So give me the Detroit Lions winning this one. We move on to the next one. The Browns and the Bengals. Joe Burrow going up against Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, it's time for that rematch already, and
Yeah.
things are different than the first time. Because remember, so like, all right, so let's like look it back. Let's turn back let's go in the way back machine, as they like to say on ESPN sometimes. But Bucci Mane, Martin, remember the last time they played each other, Thursday Night Football, the Browns had come off getting their ass kicked by the Ravens, and people were like, "Oh man, they're on the path to another really bad season." This is the game that after they beat the Bengals, they went on this run. This was the start of the run. And then you look at one thing I always remember about this game when it was all said and done, I was like, bro, Joe Burrow had like 3 incomplete passes and 300 plus passing yards and 3 touchdowns and still lost. Like that dude is like legit. This was the one game where I was just like, oh man, like he got it. By the way, don't forget the Browns defense leads the NFL in interceptions caught. Like I don't know how that happened, but they do. Anyway, yeah, this is interesting. And then the Bengals after that, they kept having those impressive performances. I think the following week they got their first win of the season. So this was a big game for both of these teams like a couple weeks ago, and oh my, how things have changed quite a bit. Because this was 2 bad teams in the NFL, and now it's like one good team in the
one team that
one
just hasn't
good
gotten
team?
over the hump yet of the better teams in their their division with the Ravens and Steelers. And it's like you said, the Ravens spanked the Browns in week 1, and then they came back and beat the Bengals. They just got spanked by the Steelers. But here's the thing, Ashton, they had Nick Chubb in week 2. They don't have Nick Chubb
Yeah,
anymore.
that was a big difference because that was the night they rushed for like over 200 yards, right? Like him and Kareem Hunt. So yeah, man, I like where Martin's got his head at. He's thinking about chaos. He's got chaos on the brain. He's leaning Bengals. If you can't hear this, by the way, T. Higgins. I know you guys haven't been paying attention. T. Higgins been looking
AJ Green found
good.
AJ Green finally woke up this season last week against the Colts. The Browns, is Baker Mayfield healthy? Is he going to start? Are we going to have another Case Keenum sighting?
So he's good to go.
He's questionable, but
But
Mama didn't raise no wuss. You got when we talk about Baker Mayfield's rib and chest injury this season, you always got to remember Mama didn't raise no wuss. But she also didn't raise a quarterback that can effectively play through injury. I guess a lot of people are
all
down
right,
on
so
Baker. When
I mean,
people
yeah,
get down
like
on
most
Baker,
human, she raised a human being, Martin. Congratulations to Mama Mayfield. She raised a human being who, when his ribs are moved around in places they're not supposed to be, he's having a bad time. He's having a bad time, Martin. I don't know what to say, but yeah, that could be a huge factor. Baker Mayfield's hurt. There is no Nick Chubb in this game, and as you've seen the past couple of weeks, the run first offense definitely needs your boy Nick Chubb to make it run. I will say this: things have not changed for the Bengals. Things that have gotten better for the Bengals, but things that have not changed. How bad their offensive line is.
Yeah.
And Myles Garrett being very good at hitting people who just so happen to specialize in throwing the ball. So, yeah, I'm going with the Browns, man, just on the strength of the defense, bro. Even I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals win this one. I feel like the Browns, they've come a long way since the last time that we saw them play, since the last time these teams played each other, interestingly enough.
Ashton, you mentioned a second ago that my voice said I was leaning the Bengals. I just don't like the Browns. I don't.
So you
I'm
hate.
worried.
So
I'm
you
worried
hate.
about the running game. If they can't get the running game, but they've got Odell, they've got Jarvis. They're all pissed off. They're coming off a loss. The Bengals blew a 16. That's the thing. They were up 21 points on the Colts last week. Give me the Bengals. Fuck it. If I'm wrong on this one, I'll fucking take the L. I
Sucker
can't.
play.
I can't pick. I can't pick a hurt Baker Mayfield. I could barely pick a healthy Baker Mayfield to win a football game, let alone an injured one. It wouldn't surprise me though if the Browns won like 50-0. Let's move on to the next game. The Panthers and the Saints, two teams that are coming into this one with question marks. Ashton, the Panthers, we were so high on them the past few weeks, and then they come out and
then they played the best defense in the NFL.
Yeah, and then they came out and played a really tough opponent. The Saints, meanwhile, I don't know if you read the report. Michael Thomas back on the injury list.
Michael Thomas is not. He was not at practice today at all. Like he wasn't like out on the field at all today.
Yeah.
So Tre'Quan Smith, walk on down.
They're listing it as, I believe, a hamstring injury. But man, would you be surprised if this time next week we're talking about Michael Thomas on a new football team? And I'm not talking about Washington.
Nah, if we're talking about like Michael Thomas on the like our IR, totally see that. Because it seems like it's other stuff, you know what I mean? And he remember that fight that he talked about. They like he re-injured himself in that practice.
Yeah.
That he got into I think that's what like got him into that fight. He got mad, and that maybe the person, you know how it goes, man. Like dudes in practice, they get overzealous, and they, once again, when you play a sport like football, you're responsible for yourself. But I could definitely see a situation where they're like Michael Thomas is out here trying to work his way back in. The DB goes like full bore or like goes full practice speed on him. And he ends up putting him in a position where he ends up hurting himself again. And then he gets mad at the DB like it's his fault that Michael Thomas, who shouldn't have been out there on the field, got hurt. And then he gets into a fight with him. I can see that happening and being that being the reasoning. But that'll be interesting, man. Like you said, like you said about like Sean Payton sitting him down, right? And I was like, that's Sean Payton being Sean Payton, right? Like he's the only guy that's got enough balls to be like, hey, I don't give a damn how talented you are. Like I was like, I don't really care how talented you are. Like if I feel that you're doing something that's going to like tear apart the team, because if I let you slide on that, then I'm basically condoning people getting in fights in practice, and we're all grown ass men here, and I will not accept that. And I don't care if we lose this game, but it's not going to be because I sat you down. So, and then luckily for them, they played the Chargers that week and won. So, yeah, I expect this. I expect this game to be pretty close, man. And another thing to watch in this game, Derek Brown, defensive tackle. I've been talking about him like every single fucking week that we've been on this podcast. But Derek Brown versus a like high quality offensive line, right? And other than that, man, I expect this one to get a little wild. I expect this one to get like some points on the board, back and forth. And by the way, it is Teddy Bridgewater versus his old team.
Yeah,
so,
revenge game. That's the. Some people will bet literally just knowing that it's a revenge game. But Ashton,
you know what, man? Yeah, go ahead, Martin. Say it. I think we're gonna say the same thing.
No, well, I'm gonna say something real quick. There's actually 3 common opponents for these teams: the Buccaneers, Raiders, Chargers. The Saints 2-1 against those teams. The Panthers 1-2.
Oh,
So
yeah. That's how Martin chooses things.
it's something I fall back on when I don't know like how a game's gonna play out, because what you put on paper against the same team says a lot, no matter what week in the season is. Yeah, injuries are a thing, and momentum and stuff like that. The Panthers were on a 3-game win streak and then ran into the Bears. The Saints, they've been up and down almost all year. They're coming off a bye. No Michael Thomas. I'm gonna pick the Panthers.
Yeah. I'll take the Panthers for different reasons, though. I'll take the Panthers off the fact that, one, Teddy Bridgewater is familiar with the way that the scheme for the Saints is going to go. And if they get good defensive line play and can get some kind of containment on Alvin Kamara, that just puts that much more pressure on Emmanuel Sanders and Traquan Smith to get open. And we've seen what happens when like they solely depend upon one of them. Drew Brees gets locked in on one person usually, and that's why the stats end up so lopsided. Like you'll have like a 300-yard game, but half of the yards will come from one guy, right? And everybody else gets kind of scattered in there, and the rest come from Alvin Kamara. But their offense got so one dimensional, man. Especially like right before the bye, and maybe they're gonna come out here and they're gonna have a totally different approach to football, because I know Sean Payton watched that Sunday Night Football game, bro. Like I know he watched that Sunday Night Football game with the 49ers and the 49ers taking on the Rams, and there's got to be something that a team that's in a similar situation, Martin, like think about that. The 49ers and the Saints are in very similar situations, both with quarterbacks. Like Drew Brees is on the way down, Jimmy Garoppolo on the way down from like what he was before when he's 100% healthy, and they've been finding ways to move the ball without those guys getting put in dangerous situations, right? And I think there's something to be said about, Sean Payton is a student of the game, is just like every other coach, right? Like the corniest statement of all time, right? But there's got to be something like unless their offense changes soon, man, they are gonna be one dimensional, and that one dimension is running everything through Alvin Kamara, and you can only do that for so long until you play against a high quality defense. This is gonna be a big test for the Panthers defense. The Saints defense as well has been pretty skeptical, and that's what makes me want to pick the Panthers. So.
I'm looking at the injury list. Apparently, a lot of secondary players are injured for the Panthers. Eli Apple could be their starting corner, and if you've been following football for a few years, this is one of Eli Apple. He was targeted a lot when he played for the Giants because, let's face it,
he played slightly above average. So like Eli Apple average, like he played slightly above average, right? Which is decent, but like in the NFL, you play slightly above average against like wide receivers, they get a lot of yards off of you. So Eli Apple also formerly of the New Orleans Saints as well. So
if Michael Thomas plays, I'm changing my pick. I'll put it, if he's healthy, 100 and cleared to play and all that stuff, and I'm going to switch my pick to the Saints only if he plays. If he doesn't, I'm going to take the Panthers. But Ashton, we move on. We got quite a few games to get through.
Oh, look at that. The next game here. The Cowboys in Washington.
We're just going to say it with me on 3. Bills versus Jets. 1, 2, 3. Bills. All right. Now we can move on to...
We've officially locked that in. Lock of the year, guys. The Bills are going to shellac the Jets. And if they don't, oh my God, I can't wait to come on here and clown the Bills again.
Because here's the thing, Ashton and I, for those who might just be joining us for the first time or not really heard our takes on the NFL side of things, we are so off of the bandwagon for the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. It's not even funny. And if they do lose to the Jets, dude, then it just says just how overrated they really are. I mean, the Jets can't even convert a third down, dude. Like that's how bad the Jets are.
And the one thing that it will do is it'll save Adam Gase's job for another couple weeks.
Could you imagine? Like, what if the Buffalo Bills are like, look, guys, we could keep Adam Gase if we just lose one game, but then that opens up the door for Miami and New England to kind of come back into the division since they have a nice little bit of a lead there.
Well, all you got to do is beat them head to head, right? That's easy.
Yeah. We're both picking the Bills, but
that's easy, right?
You can.
Yeah, we'll take the Bills.
If the Jets end up winning this game, that is going to be our lead on Tuesday. Just make sure you tune in for that one if you see that the Jets get the dub. We move on, Ashton. You already said it. It's Cowboys versus Washington. It is a battle for first place in the NFC East, and both teams are at least two games under 500. It's fucking insane to say. Dallas, Andy Dalton, Washington, Kyle Allen, question mark. Better defense. Here's
this
the
game
thing.
is so difficult to pick.
No,
That's the
it
wild
is
part
not.
about it.
It is not.
This game is so difficult to pick because it's the mediocrity of Andy Dalton versus the atrocious play of Kyle Allen on a regular basis. So,
who's the best unit in this
apparently,
game?
Apparently, Martin's got the answers. The better team, you could argue very easily, is Washington because there's a lot of, like we mentioned this before, a lot of good individual players on the Dallas Cowboys side of the ball, right? And I will say this: Washington's got a really good defensive line, and if there is something that is a double-edged sword for the Cowboys right now, it is Ezekiel Elliott because he can win and lose them the game. And of course, like their situation has to be like, yeah, we need like 0 turnovers. We need every single one of our possessions to be able to come out here and win this game. And it makes me want to think the Cowboys are going to come out here and do the thing or whatever. But if Andy Dalton can't move the ball down the field, which, versus one of the worst defenses in the NFL, he could not.
Yeah.
He's now playing a mediocre
Wait, did you
defense.
just call the Arizona Cardinals one of the worst defenses? At what point are you going to give? At what point are you going to get? Are you going to give them some credit
when they deserve it? I find myself to be a pretty fair guy on this show, and you guys are really impressed by them shellacking the Cowboys.
It's not just the Cowboys. Ashton, they are the 13th best overall defense. They're only giving up 18 points a game. Like, at what point are you going to admit that they're not bad?
Martin, would you like to pull up the Cardinals schedule real quick? It does matter, right? You want to talk about common
49ers,
opponents.
Washington, Lions, Panthers, Jets, Cowboys. And they're giving up 18 points. They're doing what they're supposed to, not give up points to bad teams.
No, Martin. When you play those teams, you're not supposed to be 13th in points surrendered. You should be top 5 in the NFL.
No, they are. They're defense. They're 13th overall. Their points per game.
That's what I'm saying.
The points per game, second best. Second best in the NFL.
Second best in points surrendered.
They're better than the Pittsburgh Steelers in points given up per game.
All right, man. Y'all can keep believing that they're good or whatever all you want.
Numbers don't lie, bruh. Numbers don't lie. They're better than the Steelers. And both teams haven't played that tough of a game.
Numbers in context don't lie. But all right. You guys keep talking.
Ashton's beating around the bush. Y'all heard that pause. And I told them they're the second best scoring defense.
They're
in the
playing
NFL
well
right
against bad teams.
Hey,
oh my God, I'm so impressed.
That's what you're supposed to do. I just lost my schedule, but Cowboys.
We're talking Cowboys versus Washington. There's 3 combined wins between these two teams. One of them is coming off of what was it? How many? 25? Was it 28-point loss?
Something like that.
And Washington's coming off a win.
No. They lost to the Giants. They went for 2 and lost. Remember?
Other way
Riverboat
around. Yeah, no, and it's actually not even his fault. It's literally like I got to give these dudes opportunities to go win the game because apparently they see something more in Kyle Allen than they do in Dwayne Haskins. So I'm still waiting to see what that is. But maybe
it's going to be this game. This is going to be the game where you realize, like, all right, Kyle Allen. I mean, I'm not a Kyle Allen fan or defending. I'm just saying, if you give me Kyle Allen or Andy Dalton, I'm going to take Kyle Allen, especially after what we just fucking saw about Andy Dalton this past weekend. Washington's got the better defense. Technically, the Cowboys have the better offense, but it's led by Andy Dalton now. Here's the thing. Until I see Andy Dalton win a football game, I'm not going to pick the Cowboys the rest of the season. I'll leave it at that.
Taking Cowboys in this one.
Taking the Cowboys? I'm taking Washington.
I know so one of us knows how to assess teams, and the other one looks at common opponents in numbers without context.
All right. We're talking numbers without context. Okay. Next on the list, we got the battle.
We can talk numbers. The Cowboys have more wins than Washington does. They're better, right? They're not. They're both trash teams.
The-
By the way, by the way, for your own personal health, for your own mental health, not you, Martin, other people who might be tempted to watch this game, don't. Just don't. Just don't.
All right, so
That's a prescription from Dr. Ashton.
the
500
Cowboys,
cc's of not this game.
the Cowboys' 2 wins this season, which didn't have Andy Dalton at the helm, are by a combined
Yes.
4 points. Ashton,
Uh-huh.
they're not
That's
that
what-
good. At least Washington beat
They're not.
Philadelphia by
I don't
10
need you to
points.
tell me that they're not good. I know they're not good, Mark. I just know that one is less shitty than the other shit.
I think this game will prove just how bad the Cowboys' defense is. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, it's pretty bad.
It's
pretty bad.
It is pretty
but
bad,
yeah.
but Washington's offense is But I'm still gonna pick them because I'm not picking the Cowboys until we see Andy Dalton.
We
lead
love
them
to
a
waste time on good.
on
We
shitty
love
ass
to waste
games.
time on bad teams.
Yeah,
bad
let's
games.
get on to the battle of the. What do we call the Buccaneers and the Raiders? The battle of the bad guys, the battle of the battle of the seas, the Sea of Thieves game. You know what I'm saying? The 4-2 Buccaneers going up to Las Vegas to take on the 3-2 Raiders. Tom Brady kind of on a roll right now. Ashton, Derek Carr, which Derek Carr is going to show up this week? Who fucking knows? Josh Jacobs, I believe. Wasn't he on like the injury list the last time we saw the Raiders? Or
Yeah, so he's questionable.
he's questionable.
He's still questionable
Okay.
from last time I checked. Cause yeah.
Oh,
but
this
yeah,
was
the
actually
Buccaneers.
quickly, Ashton. This was the game. There was a flex this week on the schedule.
Yeah.
If you are expecting,
This is the
to
one
see,
they flexed out for Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, they've moved, which is interesting because I feel like that would have been a decent game. Buccaneers Raiders got flexed for Seahawks Cardinals. Wonder why? It must be because the Cardinals defense is playing so bad. Sorry, I just had to poke the bear on that one. That was an easy
I mean,
setup.
it's Martin. Tell you what, buddy. You'll find out on Sunday just how good that Cardinals defense is, right?
All right.
So yeah, I guess we're all gonna learn on Sunday.
we're all
And I
good.
feel like you're gonna have a lot more. I feel like you're gonna have a lot more notes than I am
Okay.
on Sunday. Go ahead.
All right.
But yeah, Buccaneers Raiders, man. This one comes down to the deciding factor for me is like Buccaneers gonna get that pressure.
Yep.
Like gonna get that pressure, bro. Like and the Raiders defense has been consistently bad at getting pressure on opponents this season. So that becomes the determining factor for me. Tom Brady's going to have a shit ton of time. And on top of that, like the secondary for the Raiders has been like up and down, kind of sketchy vast majority of the season. The Kansas City Chiefs, they took that freak loss to the Raiders. And of course, that's a huge win for them because that's a product of game planning from John Gruden. And on top of that, that's an execution from the players for sure. But when it comes down to it, man, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right now, they are looking exactly as deadly as you thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. And this Raiders team, once again, Martin, neither one of us knows what to think of these guys.
Yep.
And I've watched some of their games, and I still don't understand it.
Yeah,
I've watched 2 of their games. Don't get it. But yeah, I'll take the Buccaneers just off the fact of they're going to have pressure. And then on top of that, the Buccaneers will be setting the pace in this game. And it's hard for me to believe that without it being a divisional opponent, the Raiders are going to have the Buccaneers figured out in terms of their offensive scheme. And contested catches, we have 2 of the best contested catch wide receivers in the NFL on the same team with a super accurate quarterback. You'd like to imagine that it finally comes together, Martin. Maybe this is the game versus a high quality opponent. We'll see.
Better defense, Buccaneers. Better offense, Buccaneers. Give me Tampa Bay in this one, Ashton. Which one are you taking?
Yeah, I'll take the Bucks, man. Like I said, man, I'm interested to see if the Raiders somehow magically find some pressure. I know that they signed Daniel Irving from the Cowboys, to their practice squad. I'd be interested to see if he works his way to some playing time and gets signed or whatever. But I guess we'll find out. There's a lot of dudes coming out of the woodwork, out of retirement. You saw that? There's a couple dudes that Aaron Lynch is back.
Yep.
So yeah,
People
that
trying
old
to get that
49ers
little
D line
money.
is back. That
Yeah.
that old 49ers D line is back. You saw that Aaron Lynch and Alden Smith. They used to be on the same D line. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
we're both taking the Buccaneers in this one. Next game on the list is the Chiefs at 5-1, going up against the Broncos 2-3. Ashton, do you give Denver any chance in this game?
So this, once again, divisional opponent, right? Divisional opponent that's already beaten the Kansas City Chiefs, right? They the Kansas City Chiefs lost to the Raiders. The Broncos, we'd like to imagine, has a better defense. than the Raiders, from what we understand about the Raiders and how they operate. But in comparison, their Broncos offense is just significantly worse than what the Chiefs are bringing out here. Although the Chiefs have been looking kind of sketchy the last couple of weeks, we can talk about that some other time. But yeah, man, this seems like an overwhelming type game because it looks more than likely that the Broncos are going to have the Chiefs are going to not be able to score in some possessions. We'll give the Broncos a couple of stops, but the Chiefs defense has played pretty well throughout the course of the season, man, except for that Raiders game. And you can't let that Raiders game define their entire season because you can say the same thing about their Bills game, and they're one of the best teams in the NFL if you do that. So I like to believe they're going to get a really good showing from the defense against the Broncos, man. One, because of the lack of Broncos talent, and then combined with the fact that they are a good defense, they come out here and they win this game versus the Broncos.
Yeah, so Denver, they have that win against the Jets. Let's throw that one out of there. Everyone's going to beat the Jets this year. They just won a football game by only kicking field goals. I don't think you can beat the Chiefs by only kicking field goals, Ashton.
You never know until you do it.
I mean, true, but it's like you said, the Chiefs defense minus that Raiders game has been somewhat consistent. We take out the 40 points the Raiders put up. The most points they've given up is 20. Uh, so give me this one. Not a lot. Not a lot of discussion on this one. I think Kansas City is clearly the better team on both sides of the ball. Even though you could have an argument the Broncos have the better defense, but obviously the offense. I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes or I mean, I'm a huge Drew Lock fan. I think he's going to end up being a lot better than some people think he is going to be. But right now, he's got a very poor offensive line. The running game is Melvin Gordon still out. That strep throat slash potential suspension, Philip Lindsay. I mean, they could, they might be able to score points, but they couldn't score points from their offense against the Patriots. So give me the Chiefs on uh, this one. We move on. The 49ers, speaking of the Patriots, they're our next game on the list. They're going to be hosting San Francisco, who's going across country. They're 3-3. The Patriots are 2-3. Ashton, this one could end up being an interesting game.
Okay, I was thinking something in my head that the Patriots were not.
They had the off the.
I
Their
thought
off
they were.
week.
I thought they were at 500. But yeah. So this game, when it all comes down to, is one. This is a full week of preparation for Bill Belichick versus one of the best coach teams in the NFL, combined with a really talented football team. So their defense is going to have Their defense. This is a key game for them as a whole because if anybody can cook up a way to stop all the wide receiver reverses, all the screenplays, all the short plays, all the playmaking type things that the 49ers do, because we talked about this on Tuesday. They depend upon playmaking way more than any other team in the NFL, right? Than the throws of their quarterback. And I mean, isn't that technically a form of being one-dimensional? They've lost Raheem Mostert. Jarrett McKinnon's been a pretty talented running back this entire season. And to the 49ers' credit, man, with that kind of makeshift secondary that they've been using, they have been able to find ways to get some relatively good pass defense out of an opponent or against an opponent. So I'm expecting the Patriots to come out here and win this one, but I want to watch this game just because I know I'm going to see some shit that I've probably never seen on a football field before, especially when it comes to the mind games beforehand. So I know that this is going to be a huge game for film guys like Brett Coleman and Samuel Gold, who are two guys that I watch on YouTube. I would love to sit back and watch them break down every single play of this game, just so I feel like you're going to learn so much from this one. But hands down, this is a full week of preparation for the Patriots, and I think that's what makes the difference here for the 49ers, who are an execution-based team. And if the Patriots, they specialize in anything, they take away the thing you love the most and make you do something else to beat them. And Martin, do you think the 49ers are good enough at something else to be able to beat the Patriots with that?
The only reason I would even consider picking the 49ers here is that since Cam Newton got COVID, I mean, he hasn't. I mean, last week he didn't really play too well, and then the offense has not been clicking at all the past 2-3 weeks for New England, and obviously not having practice and stuff like that uh, can hurt you a lot. Which Cam Newton is going to show up? That's the biggest question. Um, before he got before everything happened, the offense was putting up 30 points a game. Now they're putting up 10 and 12 the past 2 weeks. That's the only thing I could think of that the 49ers might be able to do. If they keep the score down, it gives them. The 49ers, I don't think would win would they win a shootout? They couldn't even get in a shootout with the Dolphins. Jimmy Garoppolo's going up against the team that drafted him. I'm still going to go the Patriots, but I mean, it's like you said, Bill Belichick, he's going to have a full week of being able to stop
I think
these.
the 49ers are limited
Yeah,
at
like
best.
the
I think the 49ers are limited, like, structure-wise right now.
And the fact that, like, some of the stats that you brought up on that game against the Rams, the fact that, was it 49 total yards from Jimmy Garoppolo were, like, down the field?
46 air yards.
Yeah,
46 air yards.
And had 200 passing yards. Like, that's just insane. I think Bill Belichick knows how to stop that type of offense. So give me the Patriots in this one. Hopefully Cam Newton can get back to playing how he was before he got COVID-19.
And I think Trent Williams also may be questionable. Well, yeah, we got one more. We got three more in this one. Go ahead, Martin.
Jaguars taking on the Chargers. Neither team's record's that good. One team, I believe, is better than the record. One team is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Martin, what they gonna do? What they gonna do when Justin Herbert loses this game?
You think they ain't bringing?
What they gonna do? What they gonna do?
They ain't bringing Tyrod Taylor back. You know that, damn sure. They're gonna ride this. They're gonna come out with the excuse like he's gonna learn in the losses or something like that, just so that they can keep pulling him out there.
I'm just saying. They talk about how this dude excels at all the little things that don't show up on the stat sheet, which, by the way, scrappiness doesn't show up on the stat sheet either, if you know what I mean. So, but yeah, that's one thing that I just wonder, like, what happens if the Chargers lose this game? They are clearly the more talented football team. Gardner Minshew, wild as hell, right? Like, and Laviska Shenault every single week getting better and better as a football player in the NFL. Naturally, I want to take the Chargers, but something tells me the Jags are more clutch than the Chargers, which is not saying a lot because everybody's more clutch than the Chargers.
Ashton, you got to remember the Jacksonville Jaguars are doing everything they can to tank this season. They won their first game.
Oh, that hasn't stopped Gardner Minshew before.
I mean, earlier this week, Doug Marrone was answering questions on would he bench Gardner Minshew. So
right.
Do we know have we talked about who the backup is for Jacksonville yet? Could you name their backup quarterback off the top of your head? No.
I know this. Hold on.
Nope.
Let me think of every generic white guy quarterback. Oh, Luke McCown.
Close. Mike Glennon.
Okay.
Mike
They're the
Glennon.
same person. It's all good.
Yeah, Mike Glennon.
I've never seen Luke McCown and Mike Glennon in the same room, so they're the same person to me.
Here's the thing: the Chargers are the better offense. They've got the better defense. Every single game this year has been a one-score game for the Chargers. That tells me this.
So it makes perfect sense how they're going to lose this to the Jags.
Yeah,
like what you just said means they're going to lose to the Jags, and you know it.
The Jaguars haven't had a one-score game since they lost to the Titans week 2. Every other one has just been shellacking after shellacking. Give me the Chargers on this one. 2 more games on the list, Ashton. Do you want to save the best for last, or do you want to talk about the Seahawks Cardinals right now, or would you rather do Bears Rams real quick and then talk about the Seahawks Cardinals?
Yeah, we can do Bears Ram. We got to make this one quick because we got to get to the UFC nickname picks and everything. Yep. So yeah, we gotta cook this one up. We feel more fresh because we had Howard Beck on talking to us. Yep. But yeah, Seahawks versus. Let's do Bears versus Rams. 2 of the best teams in the NFL. You can argue whether it's for real or not all you want. The Bears defense is about that life. Yeah. The Rams have been feasting on NFC East teams, which spells fraud all over it. Yeah.
They lost to the 49ers, but can beat the NFC East. The Chicago Bears, they've also got they've got one NFC East team on their schedule so far. They beat the Giants 17-13. The Rams, who knows which Rams team is going to show up? Like, they beat the Giants 17-9. So, like, who the fuck knows with this Los Angeles team, man? They've got the best defensive player in the NFL. Going up against
Aaron Donald?
Yeah, Aaron Donald. And then you got Big Dick Nick on the other side, who's just basically Trent Dilfer this year with the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. Because this defense, like you said, Ashton, I can finally get on board. are legit. They stopped Tom Brady. They stopped our man Teddy Bridgewater. They stopped Matty Ice. I mean, their only loss is to the Indianapolis Colts, and we have yet to figure out how they actually lost, except for um, Big Dick Nick probably just didn't. I don't know, dude.
Well, so there's another thing that goes into this, right? Like the volatility. This comes up on PFF all the time, the PFF podcast, which, by the way, if you're a big football fan and you like numbers, you should definitely listen to. It's very educational. But they talk about this all the time. They talk about how like the low for Nick Foles is very low and the high for Nick Foles is very high.
Yeah.
And he is constantly bouncing between the ceiling and floor all the time. Like the definition of consistency is like non-existent when you talk about Nick Foles. So that's why like certain games, like when they lose to the Colts, pop up all the time. Also, the Colts defense may be legit. Or the other thing. So you look at that situation and the Bears come out and they're just kind of like, they what offense are you going to get today, right? Because the Rams defense is always here to play. The Rams defense it's Allen Robinson versus Jalen Ramsey, and it makes me feel like this could come down to like fucking field goals.
Mm-hmm.
So like this could come down to like this could be like a 17-14 kind of game when it's all said and done.
And which team do you think is more likely going to win a 17-14 game?
So who's more talented?
I think the
Martin?
Rams are
Who's
more
talented.
talented. I think the Rams top to bottom are more talented, but the Chicago's defense, I think it's time to start talking. They could win each and like the thing is the Bears the last few seasons they've had that defense and they've had Mitch Trubisky at quarterback, right? Now they've got somebody who's taken a team to the Super Bowl on their squad, and I think that the Rams have got a quarterback in Jared Goff who's done the same thing, but I'm going the Bears.
Question,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going Bears.
I feel that, man. It doesn't feel natural for sure because it's basically you banking on good Nick Foles showing up to play football really well. Nick Foles that probably won't have Allen Robinson at his disposal, who can survive the turnovers, right? Like offensively. Other thing too, like if you imagine that both of these defenses are like ridiculously good, which in most cases, in most situations, they are very good, but or they're very good or they're slightly above average, depending on that range, right? When you take away what the other team does best, because you have to assume the Bears are going to take away a lot. They're going to take away a lot of the pass windows that the Rams are accustomed to having, and they're going to have to go resort to a lot of the trickery in terms of like extending lanes, in terms of wide receiver end arounds, in terms of movement in the backfield to try and trick a defense that's just been on point. And on top of that, they're going to have a reduced amount of time in the pocket because of Khalil Mack. It makes me feel like the Bears like can go out here and win this one with like 20 points or less.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they can win with like very few amount of points based off of that performance. I'll take the Bears, man. And it puts the Rams at 4-3, which is kind of like where they seem like they should be.
Yeah.
And the Bears get another win.
Yeah, I'm almost like talking in my head, talking myself into the Rams, but they couldn't prove it against the 49ers defense. And I've got their ESPN thing pulled up, and all week the Rams have been talking about they want to prove it's a fluke what they did against the 49ers. The Rams don't have a running game right now. Neither does the Bears really. The thing is, Ashton, I've went so many underdog / weird picks this week. If I go the Bears, I can see myself barely getting like 5 games correct if things go south. I'm gonna pick the Bears, but don't. I will not be shocked if this is like if it's a close game. Here's the thing: if it's a close game, it'll be the Bears. If it's more than a touchdown, it'll be the Rams winning. But after what we saw last week against the 49ers, the Rams just I don't know. I think the Rams are just something's not clicking on the offensive side of the ball right now, and when you're going up against a talented defense like the Bears, you need your offense to be somewhat clicking, to say the least. The more I talk, the more I want to pick the Rams in this one, Ashton. But fuck it, we're moving on to our 2 picks for the for the NFC Super Bowl. Actually, Ashton's Super Bowl pick. The Seattle Seahawks heading down to Arizona to take on the Cardinals, who are my Super Bowl pick or at least to make it to the Super Bowl. I'm still going Steelers Cardinals in the Super Bowl at the end of the season, but they're in a very tough NFC West. And Ashton, this is going to be the first game that decides who has the bragging rights and who has the momentum coming out of this game.
This game's a fucking joke. Y'all are falling for the hype to like a huge degree, man. It's hilarious to me that people think this is going to even be close. I'll take the Seahawks.
So we talk numbers.
You know what the Seahawks specialize in, right? Like, yeah, you want to talk numbers. You want to talk numbers, right? You talk about like all the yards they give up, right? Like that's the yard. That's the thing. That begs the question of like, do you think Kyler Murray's been passing at an elite level this season? Yeah. Hey, Martin, how about you take out last week? So they played the Cowboys, right? Take out that 80-yard pass to Kirk Martin, right? Or Christian Kirk. Sorry. Yeah. Take out that 80-yard pass to Christian Kirk. How many yards did your boy Kyler Murray throw for last week?
Let me click on them and pull it up. Last week,
I think it's while Martin's looking it up, I'll also point out this other thing about the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks are like top 5 in the NFL in terms of forcing turnovers this season. I don't think the Cardinals are anywhere near the caliber of team that can survive having multiple turnovers or even one turnover in a game against an elite level offense like the Seattle Seahawks.
It would have been 108 yards if you take away the 80-yard bomb.
Oh. Look at that.
Oh, yeah, but look at that. They didn't need it. They fucking ran. Like, they didn't need him to play well, and they still won. Like, you're going to tell me that the Seattle Seahawks defense that's giving up...
They got 3 extra possessions. Let's not forget that part, right? Like, they got 3 extra possessions.
They did force them.
They forced 2 fumbles. They got an interception against a really shitty quarterback. You think they're going to get any interceptions versus Russell Wilson? Do you think Chris Carson's going to fumble the ball? Because Chris Carson's playing better than Ezekiel Elliott this season. Do you think Russell Wilson is anywhere near the caliber of Andy Dalton? I mean, Andy Dalton's anywhere near the caliber? No?
I mean, let's see who this... Like, the Seahawks are giving up... They are technically the worst... Like, yards-wise, they're the worst defense in the NFL right now, Ashton.
How about you look up their red zone percentage?
Dude, it does... I'm just... We can each throw numbers all we want at each other. Like, that's the thing.
That's what I'm saying, Martin. Like, all the numbers point that the Seahawks are significantly better than the Arizona Cardinals. Especially when you look at the level of competition. So here's how I put it. And I think a lot of people would agree with me when I say this. The Arizona Cardinals are the baby version of the Seahawks.
I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is... Who's the best wide receiver in this game? DeAndre Hopkins.
Cool. Now name the next 3 best wide receivers in this game.
In the game?
So DK Metcalf, right? DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett.
Then Larry Fitz.
Oh, you're crazy. It's more from the Seattle Seahawks.
You're gonna put the third. Yeah. Who's the third receiver? Yeah. Who is it?
It's DJ Moore or something like that. Or
you don't even know his name. David Moore.
Yeah, I know he's better. David Moore. Yeah, there it is.
Then
David
Larry
Moore.
Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
You're gonna put a guy you don't know who his name is over Larry Fitzgerald.
So okay, Martin, you just named 5 wide receivers. 3 of them are 3 of the top 5 belong to the Seattle Seahawks.
To you. To me, I would put
literally everyone.
I would take Christian Kirk. I would take I don't even know how to say his first name.
All right.
Andy
you
Isabella.
Talk about drinking the Kool-Aid.
Dude, you're picking a no-name over Larry Fitzgerald. That's how much hate you have. Like,
it's not even that much. It's not hate. Like, it's really just legitimately the Seahawks are significantly better than the Cardinals.
Yeah, but their defense
it's about time that they go out here and they expose these guys.
All right, if you think the Cardinals defense isn't good, then you should think the Seattle defense is atrocious.
No, because all right, so Mark, so we're gonna talk about context again. We're gonna talk about context.
You want to talk about who they've played?
You want to talk about who the Cardinals have played?
Yeah.
They have a mutual opponent. You want to talk about how I went with that one?
Which one?
It should be the Cowboys. Oh no, the Falcons played the Cowboys, right?
They've both played the Cowboys. Seattle won 38-31. It was a closer than 38-10. That goes to Arizona. Like you're proving my point right there.
So hold on. hold on.
Against
Don't try.
Dak, they won by a touchdown. Against Andy Dalton,
Yeah, Dak. Who,
they won by 28 points.
Let me ask this question, Martin. Is Dak better than Andy Dalton? Dak,
Barely.
who is the number one passer in the NFL? You think
It's empty stat yards, bro? We've talked about this.
I just want you to hear, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted you to hear what he just said. He tried to say it underneath what I said. He said that Dak Prescott is barely better than Andy Dalton because he believes, which by the way makes no sense. He believes that Dak Prescott throws empty yards, which
he does.
Guess what's not empty? The points, right? The points. They played the same team. Andy Dalton threw up 10, and Dak Prescott threw up 38 or 31. Sorry.
Yeah.
That was it. Like, you're hilarious because like it's hilarious. Your logic makes no sense. You know it doesn't make any sense, and it's okay. It's okay.
It does.
We can move on.
It does make sense.
Seahawks,
I'm picking the Cardinals. You're picking the Seahawks.
So who do you? So, gosh, man. You know what? It's only one way to teach these fools, right? It's only one way to teach these guys, man. Russell Wilson, do your thing, man. Do your thing. Right. I mean, like, honestly, bro, like, it's hilarious that y'all think this is even gonna be close. I get it. It's entertaining because guess what, Martin? Like, at the end of the day, this is two of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah,
while one of them is working on the dual threat part, right? One of them is trying to be a better passer. Right, one of them's not even close to being a finished passer in the NFL because you just talked about how poorly he threw against the Cowboys defense. Which I don't know if you know that. I don't know.
That's the thing. That's
you're right
like
because the Cowboys gave him 3 extra possessions for sure.
They didn't need. He didn't need to play a perfect game. Like that's the I don't understand. Like he didn't have to play well, and they still blew out the Cowboys. Like the Seahawks struggled with the Dak Prescott like that should say enough to you, dude. Like I'm not gonna say the Seahawks are frauds because they're actually pretty good, but I just think the Cardinals are better.
Like the best team in the NFL, but all right. It's funny. Well, when your boy turns the ball over at least twice in this game, don't try it. Don't try and argue me about how this is it. This is it, Martin. This is where your dream comes to die.
All right.
This is it. This is the week.
And
all right, we're gonna move.
Before we go into our UFC picks,
and more trash talking.
Hold on. Here's the thing. Before we get into the UFC picks, and before we get
always gotta get the last one.
You have to admit after this game, if the Cardinals win, that their defense is not bad.
Sure.
All right. Like
tell you what, Mark. If they beat the Seattle Seahawks, sure, man. Okay. You can have whatever. Because after this, like, you can have whatever argument you want, but like. You and I both know what this game is going to be. You know what it is.
I know the Cardinals are going to win.
Sure.
You can't.
All right, man. Moving on. We talked about every game for Week 7 of the NFL season. Martin, it's time to move on to some business. Apparently, this is going to be a long as hell Saturday if you watch every single one of these fights on the pay-per-view. Yep. But we, ladies and gentlemen, are talking about none other than our UFC nickname pick game. Last week, we went 2-3, getting off the Snyder, going 0-4 the week before that. We have a pay-per-view for the first time in a long time to talk about here for this segment of the show. If you know how this one goes, we talk about the UFC card through the guise of picking the best possible nickname, right? Martin picks 5 nicknames out of all the fighters on this list, and he picks 5 of them because they have the dopest nickname. Those fighters are the ones who he thinks are going to win. Most of all, overall, most of the time, coming out on the dub part. Right now, we're at 29 wins overall to compare to the 17 losses so far. 17
we're
losses
almost
so far.
2-1, almost 2-1, even though we had a 0-5 week.
So we go off here. First fight of the night. This guy, St. Petersburg, Russia, not quite Dagestan. Which, if you don't know how this game works, Dagestan is like the MMA capital of the world right now.
Until we get to the main event, there's only one fighter for some reason. Like, and Ashton gives me shit for it. There's one fighter from that fights out of Dagestan that I pick against, and just so happens to
be the champion and basically unbeaten. Yeah. Alexander Russian Thunder Yokolev, who is our first fighter of the night. He fights out of the K-Dojo Warrior tribe, which is a cool name for a gym. He's 25-10. He's got 9 submissions. He's actually got a draw, too, which is weird. His opponent from Spain, right? From Spain. Yeah. Yep. You don't see that too often. Spanish fighters. Joel El Finamino, which we can have a discussion about. There is another El Finamino, which means the Phenom. Joel El Finamino Alvarez, 17-2. Pretty impressive. He's got 15 submissions, so you know what his game is. Moving on. Next fighter here, got a young lady, Miranda Fear the Maverick.
That's a good one.
Fear the is her nickname.
Good
Yes.
one. It'll be interesting to see if
Miranda
they put
Fear
it in the front. Like, is it Fear the Miranda or like Fear the Maverick? I guess it's
Yes.
Miranda Fear the Maverick.
Yeah, Miranda Fear the Maverick. She fights out of Springfield, Missouri. She's 7-2, 5 submissions and 0 TKOs. You know what her steez is. As well, her opponent, Liana the She-Wolf Joja.
Ooh, I like that one.
Out of Moscow, Russia. Pretty good. 8-3. She's got 6 submissions. So this could be a ground battle. This could be a ground and pound situation. This is a really bad one, Martin. Nathan the Prospect Wood.
Oh.
Nathaniel the Prospect Wood. He is one of your countrymen, though. He's from Morden, Greater London, England. So not great. He does fight out of Team Titan, which is a pretty famous gym. 17-4, 9 TKOs, 5 submissions, and 3 decisions so far on his record. And he is fighting a familiar name, Casey Kinney.
Yeah, he's had
from
a few
Tucson, Arizona.
Both these guys have had a few fights in 2020, right? I feel like we've heard their names quite a couple of times.
Yes, Nathaniel Wood, I think, had to take like a layoff because of the injury he took in his fight. But he won, I think, his last one. I think he actually won Fight of the Night, if I'm not mistaken. We can look that up later. 15-2 is Casey Kinney's record. Opponent, moving on to the next fight, is Sam Smilin' Alvey.
Oh.
Smilin' is his nickname. Waterford, Wisconsin.
And if you see his, Ashton, do you use SureDog, right, when you're looking up everything?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at SureDog right now, and his he's got a huge smile on his face in his little profile picture. So to have
he got the veneers popping. His record
Sam.
is
maybe. I don't know.
Smiling Sam Alvey, maybe. 33-14 is his record. 19 TKOs, 11 decision wins. He has been around for quite some time. Big time in the game.
I'm looking it up, Ashton. It's Smiling Sam. Smiling Sam Alvey.
Smiling Sam Alvey. Alvey is also a name from if you ever watched Kingdom about MMA, you should check that out. Pretty prominent name in that one. Da Un Jung is the next opponent. Is his opponent. He is from Daegu, South Korea. Korean top team is where he fights out of. 6'3", 13-2 on his record. Pretty impressive. He does not have a nickname, so we're moving right along.
Really Ashton, really quickly. Sam Alvey on a 4-fight losing streak. Jung hasn't lost in 5 years. So let's.
There you go.
I try and make some people some money with these ones. Don't bet on Sam Alvey.
So Savkat Rukmanov, who is from Kazakhstan.
Or he's not even Russian. Okay,
Kazakhstan, close. He is undefeated, 12-0 on his career so far. He does not have a nickname, but he is fighting a very famous cowboy, Alex Cowboy Oliveira, who is a main event fight just a couple of weeks ago. Or a couple of months ago. 22-8 is Alex Oliveira at one point a challenger for John Jones now on this fight card. This is a good one. This is a good one. Is he from? No, he is from. Yes.
So question. Is Alex Oliveira immediately disqualified since we've got Cowboy Cerrone?
No. Alex Oliveira is more famous cowboy.
Okay.
Yeah. This one is Ty Bam Bam Taivasa.
Nice. I think we've had a Bam Bam though, haven't we?
I don't think there's a famous Bam Bam. Not except actually Earl Thomas. No, Cam Chancellor. Ty Bam Bam Taivasa, who is from South Wales, Australia.
Okay.
Fights at the Lionheart Gym. That's a pretty cool name. Look who it is. He's fighting Stefan, the skyscraper Struve.
Yeah, and
Stefan Struve.
If you're wondering why his nickname is Skyscraper, to anybody listening,
he is 7 feet tall.
Yeah, he is a fucking giant. Like
he's literally 7 feet tall. That's
fighting
his height.
A guy that's
29-12.
This one, when they get in, the Bam Bam is 6'2", Stefan's 7 foot. Like when these two step in the octagon, it's gonna look really fucking weird.
29-12, and Stefan Struve always in the mix when it comes to trying to work his way up to getting closer to their belt. We got another one here. I think this is the second week we've had a guy with this nickname, Ian the Hulk Kotelaba.
Yep, this is
who is from The
really quickly,
Republic of
Ashton,
Moldova.
this is the rematch. I sent you this one a couple of weeks ago when I thought this was the fight that was happening on that card about 2 weeks ago. So for those that don't know, the fight between the guy he's fighting, Ankalaev and Kudalaba,
Yeah,
or however you say it.
Magomed Ankalaev.
So this
Magomed
one,
Ankalaev.
Kevin McDonald was the referee, and
Yeah.
everybody there's a growing consensus that this fight was stopped early. Just to say the least. Like it
As
was.
Martin speaks from the shadows.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what just happened there.
He's gonna use that when he talks shit about Khabib. I know that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna
I'm trying to fix that. I don't know what happened there. Like my monitor just went dark for no reason.
So yeah, his opponent is Magomed Ankalaev, who is 13-1 so far, 1 submission loss, 8 TKOs, and 5 decisions. So yeah.
Well, hold on, I'm having a little technical difficulty on my end, Ashton. Okay.
And
I'm back.
we got a familiar name. We got a familiar name here. It's Lauren Lucky Murphy in the next fight. She's from her birthplace, of course, Anchorage, Alaska. She fights out of the MMA lab, and her opponent, a very familiar name as well, but she does not have a nickname. It's Lila Sukharov right here. She is from Uzbekistan. Old school MMA is her gym's name. Interesting.
Making her UFC
next
debut.
Opponent here. Next fight here is Jacob Mamba Malkoon. Guess what, bro? You're disqualified.
Oh, yeah. I was
wait, look, Martin,
both
this
of
is
them
a
are.
rare double. This is double DQ.
Double DQ.
Phil
Get him out of here.
Megatron Hawes. Phil Megatron Hawes is his opponent, and there's only one Megatron, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and there's only one Mamba. Did nobody tell him yo, dude, what are you doing?
This is and we got another DQ. Walt the Big Ticket Harris, who for as amazing as his backstory, the Big Ticket.
I know.
You know every Shaquille O'Neal nickname that you mentioned earlier, except that one, huh? The Big Ticket, yeah. He is from Homewood, Alabama, and I think this is Walt's second fight since the terrible death of his daughter. So,
by the way, the Big Ticket was Kevin Garnett's nickname as well.
Sorry, my bad. Sorry, you're right. You're right. I don't know why I said the Big Cactus is what. Maybe no. Alexander Drago Volkov.
Now, is that a disqualification? I think we've talked about Volkov before.
Drago's a real name. Drago's a real person. Drago's a name of a character. There's no nickname for anybody else. Also, if there's another person with the nickname Drago, Volkov is more famous than them.
Okay.
Yeah, Volkov's fought for a title.
Well, I'm saying okay.
31-8, 20 knockouts, 20 TKOs. But yeah, Drago is the nickname there, and his opponent is Walt Harris. That should be a really good fight, as a matter of fact. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was literally just about to say what you were saying. This one, both fighters coming off a loss. Well, everybody knows Harris's his backstory with his daughter and everything. Alexander Volkov, like you said, has fought for a title before. This one's going to be, if his nickname wasn't the Big Ticket, I'd probably go Walt Harris, but since he's disqualified, we'll just leave it at that.
Jared the Killer Gorilla Cannonier is the next fight here, the co-main event, and his opponent, Robert the Reaper Whitaker, aka Bobby Knuckles.
Yeah. Which one are we gonna go with if I pick Robert? Is he Bobby Knuckles or is it gonna be the Reaper?
I mean, the Reaper is a way better nickname for a
Bobby
fighter.
Knuckles is. I mean,
you let me know, man. These are your picks. I don't actually have any opinion here. I just read the names and tell the stories. So we move on to our main event here. It is Justin the Highlight Gaethje, who is from Safford, Arizona, Genesis Training Center, which is a unique gym. I think he's the best fighter in his entire gym, which, hey, that happens. And the man, the myth, the legend from Dagestan, Russia, the man who paved the way for so many other fighters to come here, Khabib, the Eagle, Nurmagomedov. And if you know anything about the religious significance of the eagle to, Khabib is of course, of Muslim descent and in Russia as well. If you know anything about the significance of the eagle, then you get that as well. I'm not here to explain that because
he's never
not here
lost.
to look like a I'm not here to look like a buffoon. So yeah.
Never
Yeah,
lost.
he is 28-0. Like as soon as we get like a good American fighter, we can have like an actual Rocky versus Russia type situation.
You don't think Justin's a good
no.
Rocky versus
Justin's about to be in a lot of pain very quickly.
You think
so?
Dude.
As a matter of fact, Martin, I know so.
Do you think this one makes it to So you're a big Khabib fan. Do you think this one makes it to the judges, or do you think it before I get into my picks and talk about this fight a little bit more, Ashton, I really want. I know we're trying to stick it under 3 hours, but I just want your thought. This is probably the biggest fight of the year. No, all the different fights we've had.
2020's broken down, it's going to be the biggest fight of the year, unless they squeeze in the McGregor one. But even then, I don't think that compares to this. You know what I mean?
Was the way she was that fight this year?
Oh yeah, Zhang Wei Li, right?
Was that
when
this
she
year?
won the title.
Or was that? I think
was
that might have been.
No, it was 20. It had to be 2019, dude, because I was in a bar when I watched it.
Okay.
It had to be 2019. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so other than that, or the Tyson Fury. No, not the Tyson Fury fight. I was in a bar when I watched that too. Yeah, this is probably the biggest MMA fight of the entire year, to be honest, man. So, yeah, this one.
We've been building up to it. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, a lot of this stuff is happening so quickly, man, that like it's just, it seems like they kind of materialize out of thin air as opposed to like the big buildup for like months and months or whatever, and they're just trying to find opponents where they can find opponents. So there's not as much hype around it as there typically is. But this whole card is like really good, man. I like it a lot, especially like even the lower ones. But like these last 4 fights, right? Like Alexander Volkov versus Walt Harris. That's an interesting one. I've watched way more of Volkov than I have of Harris, and every time I hear or watch a highlight or watch a fight of Harris, I'm very entertained. So I'm interested to see how that all shakes out for sure, because that's going to be big. That's big stuff going down as well. But yeah, man, there's a lot of prospects on here that I haven't seen fight, but I see like Lauren Murphy. Like I know Lauren Murphy's pretty good overall. And I'm interested to see this Da Un-jung guy compete as well. Like you talk about, hadn't lost in 5 years, right? So
I wish he had a nickname.
The last 4 fights. Yeah, I know. He's just like Martin's like, I need these easy ones, bro. Like, come on. But yeah, Khabib versus Justin. That's gonna be a good fight no matter what happens. But I think Khabib just has too much pressure for him, bro. Like in terms of setting the pace, Khabib is just a savage, bro. Like really, he is. So. And Justin Gaethje doesn't seem like the guy to give him his first loss, but I could also be very mistaken. He tore Dominic apart,
Yeah.
When he fought. So.
All right. So.
Oh wait, Martin. Hey, Martin. Sorry, we are less than 4 minutes into Eagles Giants, and guess who's walking off the field hurt?
Carson Wentz.
A person who needs to be put on IR, and they need to stop forcing him to play. Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson literally just walked off the field, bro. Like you want to talk about a goddamn soldier, bro. Like he is every single game he's trying to make it happen, and they just won't let him rest. They won't give him a chance, bro. Anyway, Eagles convert a 4th down. But yeah, Martin, let's finish this one up, man. Tell us who you got.
Well, here's the thing. I've only got 4 names. Like we like to go in with 5. And
Martin, oh my God. I just saw the one you picked, and it's just like, come on, man. That's not even the best out of that fight. No way it's the best one on the card. Justin Gaethje. Like, that nickname is whack. Your bias is leaking through. I can smell it. You didn't like, did you pick Russian Thunder? That's a good one.
But he's on a terrible, like, if you go look at his record right now, like.
You got to pick him based off of the nickname. Which Russian Thunder is kind of corny, I'm not going to lie.
Lucky Lauren Murphy just sounds. I think okay, here we go.
Lauren Murphy, I think we picked her last time too. Oh wait, isn't there 2 Luckies? Isn't that what the problem was?
Maybe.
No, it doesn't matter. There's no one that's luckier than. There's no one that's like a more famous Lucky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Moving on. What do you got, Martin?
All right. Yeah. Liana She-Wolf Jojua, Lauren Lucky Murphy, Alexander Drago Volkov. The co-main event. I love me some Robert Whitaker, but I'm sorry, when your name is the Killer Gorilla,
Wow.
it's like
Wow.
Ashton said,
Disrespect.
it's nicknames. The Killer Gorilla is one. It's up there. Jared Cannonier. I'm not even gonna. Cannoneer. I put a bunch of N's in the spelling. All right, Ashton.
Yes.
The main event in this one. Khabib's 28-0. Justin Gaethje, 22-2. Khabib has literally dominated every single opponent that he's ever.
Can't deny greatness when you see it, Martin. We both know that.
And we have said on this show, never bet against anybody from Dagestan in mixed martial arts. Going up against the highlight, Ashton. If you're looking at the doc right now,
oh,
I have spent a long
I'm so
time.
proud of you right now.
I've spent a long time ragging on Khabib, talking about the fact that a lot of his fights go to the judges' scorecard, and I don't like fighters that do that. However, I don't think Justin Gaethje's got it in him.
You think there's a different man out there? There's another man that is meant to beat Khabib, and it's not Justin Gaethje.
I mean, I thought it was. Honestly, I thought it was. I thought Conor was going to beat Khabib. So
that's what I'm saying, man. Like once you see him beat Conor, like in your mind, you're just like, well, I guess there ain't nobody alive that can take him. So like,
I wish Justin Gaethje all the best. If he wins, it kind of proves my point, or like, it's a point for me for how I've trashed Khabib for
sure.
for over a year. But when it comes down to, like you said a couple of minutes ago, it's actually what changed my mind on the fight. What the eagle means compared to the highlight. The highlight, you're not putting anybody. That's not putting fear in anybody. That just means you come out here and you got a couple of knockouts on the way. The eagle has so much more meaning, and this is the nickname picks. And I'm actually, even if it wasn't nickname picks, I'm gonna pick Khabib in this one. I'm sorry, I have not been sold on Justin Gaethje. I mean, he's kind of risen to this status of,
mythical level, dude. Like 28-0 in MMA is insane.
Yeah, and like look at the list of like, he lost to Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier couldn't beat Conor. Conor couldn't beat Khabib. You want to talk about common opponents, Ashton? We talk about it in football. We're bringing it over to the MMA. We're going with the eagle. Khabib is going to round out my picks. Hopefully,
of course, that's how we end the episode. You talking about common opponents, of course. the most of all the junk science on the planet, common opponents.
Look, if you can't beat Dustin,
pretty close.
If you can't beat Dustin Poirier, I don't think you have a chance in hell at beating Khabib Khabib, the eagle. I've almost just made myself a really huge hypocrite by going Khabib. However, this is the nickname picks. Ashton, good luck getting his last name to fit in your little icons.
I have my ways.
Shout out to everybody that has been following us and tuning in. Shout out to Howard Beck coming on here, giving us a great interview to start the show. We have dragged it on. The game has already kicked off in the Thursday Night Football, which means it is time for us to call the curtains down. And Ashton, I will see you next Tuesday. Take us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's only a couple things left to say. First and foremost, wash your hands and wash your ass. Most importantly, wash your whole body. Please just do that. Maybe we all just become a little bit cleaner. Wash your whole body on a consistent basis. Other things to say, don't forget to download the Thrive Fantasy app. Use promo code BROKEBOY. If you deposit $20 on your first deposit with the promo code BROKEBOY, you get $20 for free, and you can bet on props. They have DFS, Daily Fantasy and Football. They have NBA stuff when it's going on. They have MLB stuff. They have golf. I saw them tweeting about some golf stuff as well. They also have esports, so check all that out. And most importantly, stay home, Roger.